6, Kent, and Lambton counties. This is CBC Television, Windsor 9.
The following is a live presentation of CBC Sports.
The road to the Grey Cup has but 2 more stops on it. The journey continues for only 4 teams. At Winnipeg Stadium, a burgeoning CFL powerhouse, the Baltimore CFLers take on an established one, the Bombers, in the East Division Final. At McMahon Stadium in Calgary, where the Stampeders had their hearts broken a year ago, it's the Stamps versus the BC Lions in the West Final. Doug Flutie is a winner. He has done it every way possible. But for a year now, he and the Calgary Stampeders have been haunted by these images. Kent Austin is durable. Only 3 weeks ago, he suffered the worst kind of shoulder separation. Last week, he came off the bench to lead the BC Lions to a semi-final victory. Welcome to Winnipeg, where the home team is used to celebrating playoff victories. Which Matt Dunnigan will show up for the Bombers today? The quarterback who thinks he's a linebacker, or the quarterback with a fine touch? Can the Winnipeg defense dominate like it did a week ago in a semi-final win? It may have to against the Baltimore CFLers, an expansion team in name only. A team led by veterans who know their craft. Today, we move a step closer to finding out who is number 1, East and West. At Winnipeg Stadium, the faithful are settling in for a game that could send the Bombers to the Grey Cup for the 3rd straight year. The forecast high in Winnipeg today is 0. It's not quite the home ice advantage the Bombers were hoping for. Home ice, though, could be a factor in Calgary today, where an icy blast is sweeping McMahon Stadium hours before the West Championship is decided. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Final Sunday on the CFL on CBC. 6 hours of playoff football to determine who advances to the 82nd Grey Cup Championship. I'm Scott Oak, and we'll be with you throughout the day here in Calgary, where in 3 hours' time, the Stampeders and the BC Lions kick off in the West Division Final. And if the Stamps were hoping to prove a point by winning a game in frigid conditions today, they may get their wish. The forecast here calls for flurries, temperatures dropping to about 8 or 10 below at game time. That's not so bad. The major concern here is the wind chill factor, and our crew tells us it feels like 20 below on the field as we speak. There's a playoff atmosphere here in Calgary and one in Winnipeg as well. We stop first on Final Sunday for a game that's usually decided this time of year at Winnipeg Stadium. That would be the East Division Championship. Let's go to Winnipeg now and hear from Mark Lee.
Thanks, Scott. Well, football doesn't come much tougher than a game in late November at Winnipeg Stadium. Ever since the Bombers joined the East Division back in 1987, they have played in every division final, 8 straight. It's a story of winning, a tradition of domination, and it's threatened today by an expansion team from Baltimore. The Baltimore blueprint based on a core of free agent veteran players. Players like quarterback Tracy Ham, seen arriving here today for a game that could send the first American team in CFL history into the Grey Cup game.
Well, I think it's a classic matchup. You have the guys who, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who established ball club. They've been the big boys in the East for quite some time. You know, they've been hard to dethrone. And then you got the new kids on the block who are trying to establish themselves, that they can compete in this league, and they can be very competitive. They can compete for a championship.
But winning builds confidence for players like quarterback Matt Dunnigan. His Bombers one win from tying the Edmonton playoff record of 44.
Well, I'm sure that it's a factor, and I'm sure they're thinking about it. They know our winning tradition. They know how we play here. They know that the conditions are conducive to Bomber type of football. I think all those things will have an effect on them, but Don Matthews will try to eliminate any of that, and he will use psychology on his ball players to get them focused on other things as opposed to our winning tradition, but our winning tradition is there.
A lot of tension between these football teams, nearly a brawl yesterday during the final practice when they were both on the field at the same time. Cal Murphy says he's so mad he won't be shaking hands at the end of this game, win or lose. For their thoughts now, let's go to the broadcast booth and welcome Don and James.
Thanks, Mark. Hi, everybody. James, there's more to this football game than which team advances to the Grey Cup. Baltimore attempting to do something no other expansion team has ever achieved. Winnipeg looking for redemption for that 47-point drubbing a couple of weeks ago. And, of course, it's the rivalry, the Canadian player against the American player. But what does Baltimore have to do this afternoon to win this football game?
Baltimore has to be very disciplined this afternoon when they win this game, if they're going to win it. They have to maintain their season average as far as rushing, Don. That's a big key for them. Limit the turnovers. In the inclement weather that we have here at Winnipeg Stadium, the ball becomes very slick, so they have to make sure that they hold on to the football. Pressure Matt Dunnigan. That's going to be a key. Can they make Matt Dunnigan move around, get out of the pocket, and they have to get to him early. The last game in Baltimore, the pressure was consistent. Matt Dunnigan had a tough day.
They certainly limited his effectiveness on October the 29th, and Alfred Payton, a former teammate of Matt Dunnigan's, was in his face most of the afternoon. On the other side of the coin, what are the keys for Winnipeg?
Winnipeg, you know, there's a lot of pressure on the two defensive ends, Tony Hill and Kelly Rush. Two guys really playing new positions coming into this game. They have to be more disciplined as a team as a whole. They cannot let the head games that they got into early in the week play part of this afternoon's contest. Which Matt Dunnigan will show up? The Matt Dunnigan who threw for 713 yards or the 189 yards last time around?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that the key for Winnipeg to advance to a third straight Grey Cup game revolves around number 16.
Well, Matt has to have that team leadership quality that he's been so renowned for this afternoon, because it's going to be very important that he can come in, and you'll notice early with Matt Dunnigan whether he's in this game or not today, Don.
Should be a whale of a football game, Baltimore and Winnipeg at Winnipeg Stadium, where the Bombers have not lost a playoff game since 1987. Mark?
And Don, Matt Dunnigan is 5-0 in division finals. They say here in Winnipeg, as he goes, so go the Bombers. We are minutes to kickoff at Winnipeg Stadium, but right now let's go back to Calgary and rejoin Scott Oak.
Okay, Mark, and this footage just in via satellite from Regina, where word is a fellow named Lancaster carved out a highly successful career in the 60s and 70s, and last year Ron Lancaster coached the Edmonton Eskimos to the Grey Cup championship. Over the last 2 seasons in Sacramento, David Archer has established himself as one of the best pure passers in the CFL. He is one of only 3 quarterbacks to ever throw 6,000 yards of passes in one season. And so the coach of the defending Grey Cup champions and one of the CFL's marquee players are with us as final Sunday analysts. Welcome, David and Ron. Welcome back, Ron, even if you weren't planning on being available today, but we're delighted to offer both of you some casual employment. David, consensus is that caliber of quarterbacking in the CFL this year is as good as it's ever been, and there's a great matchup pending in Winnipeg between Tracy Ham of Baltimore and Matt Dunnigan of Winnipeg. It's one that strikes your interest.
Great matchup. 2 veteran quarterbacks. Matt Dunnigan, very fiery guy. He's going to have to keep his poise today to keep his team involved in the game. Tracy Ham, a guy that speaks just by the way he plays, and he's going to have to do that very well today because he's going to have to get everybody involved. They have a no-huddle offense. Mike Pringle needs to be involved in their offense.
Ron, early in the season, Matt Dunnigan carved up your Eskimo defense for a CFL single-game record, 713 yards passing. That's not going to happen today, but James made this point earlier, and I know you want to emphasize it, and it is that if Matt Dunnigan's going to play well, Tracy Ham also, they both need time.
It's the story of the game. Who does the best job up front is going to win. In the last game with Baltimore, the Baltimore defense rushed Dunnigan, got him off his game and upset him, and that's what David was talking about. And with the other side of the coin, the Winnipeg defense has had problems. They got an awful big offensive line to face again today, and Baltimore has had a great year running the football. This is where the game is going to be won, on the line of scrimmage.
So we'll keep our eyes on the trenches in Winnipeg today. David, you faced the Baltimore defense twice with Sacramento this year, and Sacramento beat Baltimore twice. Do you think the Winnipeg O-line can hold up the Baltimore rush? And I'm not suggesting they have to hold to do it.
Well, I think they can. I think that they need to pound them. I think they need to play a physical game. They need to get after them. O.J. Brigance and Alfred Payton are finesse guys who like to try to use their speed and rush the passer. I think they can pound them.
Ron, quickly, it would seem the Baltimore offensive line is up to any challenge whatsoever, having opened up holes this year for Mike Pringle to set that CFL single-season rushing record.
Well, they keep him off Tracy, and that allows Pringle to run the football and Tracy to run around like he does. And that's very key in big football games. That front seven decide the outcome of games.
Thank you both. We'll hear from you throughout the day on Final Sunday. And so the Bombers in Baltimore, moments away from kicking off the East Division Championship game at Winnipeg Stadium. Can the Bombers make it 5 Grey Cup appearances in the last 7 years? Enjoy the game. We'll talk to you at halftime.
Welcome back to Winnipeg Stadium in the Eastern Final. The 13-5 first-place Blue Bombers against the 12-6 second-place Baltimore CFLers. A very strong south wind has an effect early in the ball game as Benson fields the football at the 43. You saw the kickoff by Troy Westwood hang in that strong breeze out of the south. The kick only traveled 31 yards. Now the coin toss may have been very vital in the outcome of this football game. Baltimore won. They deferred the choice to the second half. Tracy Ham and company, as a result, will have that very strong south wind at their back in the fourth quarter. They will have the football and the wind to start the football game. They are operating 1st and 10 from their own 44-yard line. Baltimore was concerned about noise at Winnipeg Stadium, and the fans are getting into it early. Ham gives to Pringle. He missed last week's game. He gets to the outside and then is knocked down by Donald Smith after a pickup of about 5. Trying to stop the Baltimore ground game might be a big problem today for Winnipeg, and with the wind, the ground game could be a very definite factor.
Well, it's going to be very important that Winnipeg can come up and try to stop this running game of Baltimore. They led the league in rushing over the season, and they have the league's leading rusher who missed last week's contest back in the game today.
Mike Pringle was replaced by Robert Drummond last week. Tracy Ham is having problems calling out signals. You see him moving along the line. He may have some problems with that 20-second clock unless he gets it underway. He does. He gives to Pringle again, and Pringle is going to be stopped short of a first down. Greg Clark came up from his inside linebacking position to make the tackle.
Don, with the wind going as it is here in the first quarter and Winnipeg able to stop Baltimore on their first offensive possession, the kicking game will be very important. Josh Miller led the CFL in punting. He has the wind in his back, but it's very important that he doesn't kick it through the end zone, that he keeps it within the field of play.
The leading punter in the CFL last week, he had a 59-yarder against the Toronto Argonauts. Here comes pressure up the middle, but still a good kick by Miller, and this one is going to bounce into the end zone, and it will go out of play as Miller puts Baltimore on the board. But that is not what he was attempting to accomplish. A 74-yard punt with the wind at his back by Josh Miller, but he was looking to angle it out of bounds inside the 10.
It's more critical to worry about the net in this situation than the overall length. Matt Dunnigan, this is the guy that everyone is concerned about today. What type of game will he have? You see his numbers from last week. Matt Dunnigan, he's one of those guys, when he gets too overpumped on, he can try to do too much as an individual.
Well, we have seen that from Matt in the past in several key games where he is so pumped up that he attempts to do a little too much by himself. But the coaching staff felt that Dunnigan and the entire offense had a good week of practice. Fake inside to Woodside. Dunnigan throws, and the pass is complete for a first down to Jamie Holland. Holland is in the ball game, replacing Tim Daniel. Daniel was injured last week in the semifinal win over Ottawa.
One of the things that Matt Dunnigan did not show last week was a lot of mobility versus Ottawa. This time he puts a challenge on the Baltimore's defense right off the bat. He rolls right, he gets outside of the container of Alfred Payton. He has the clear lane to Jamie Holland. Perfect strike, first down Winnipeg.
What the Bombers wanted to do was pick up 5 or 6 yards on first down. They didn't want to be facing second and long situations because that's when Baltimore likes to load it up and come after you. First and 10, Winnipeg. They're at their own 48-yard line. Some movement at the line of scrimmage. It looked as though Chris Walby came out of his stance prior to the ball being snapped.
One of the things with the noise, it also bothers the offensive players. And you get the offensive tackles, they're out wider, and sometimes they cannot hear the inflection and the cadence of Matt Dunn.
Procedure, Winnipeg number 63, still first down.
And Chris Walby at 6'8" and 330-plus pounds is a tough man to miss when he moves.
Well, he got a, yeah, well, he moved a lot right there. That's like the side of a building waving in the wind.
Apparently, there was a problem with the 20-second clock. They had to reset it. Now the whistle blows. Jake Ireland, the referee this afternoon. Winnipeg first and 15. Baltimore does not have a history, at least in the latter half of the season, of blitzing on first down. Pass complete to Gerald Wilcox, but Wilcox is only going to get about 4 yards. He was brought down by Ken Watson. It's on second and long, where Baltimore likes to load it up and come after you.
Well, you know, it's almost predictable in the CFL second and long. You know that a team is going to throw the ball, and Baltimore has the tools defensively. They built this defense predicated on speed. When you look, they only play two natural defensive linemen. Linebackers and defensive backs make up the core of this defense.
Second and 11, Winnipeg. The Bombers are at their own 47-yard line. Dunnigan looks for Holland, and Holland will be very close to a first down at the 51-yard line. Stopped there by Carl Anthony. Holland missed the first 4 games of the season and the last 3. He did not play either game against Baltimore.
Well, Jamie Holland is a receiver who is accustomed to playing in cold weather. Played his college football at Ohio State, several years in the NFL prior to coming to Winnipeg. Matt Dunnigan, now he's trying to stretch the defense, and throwing to the outside is normally a slot-oriented offense, but he knows that he has to spread out the Baltimore defense, because if you allow him to gang up inside, it shuts down your running game, and all of a sudden Wilcox and Alfin won't be as effective. Gerald Bayless, you see him command the double team right off the back along with Pressberry. Matt Dunnigan early has not felt any pressure from this Baltimore defense.
And the rookie, Kevin Robson, did a pretty good job in handling Gerald Bayless, the outstanding defensive player in the CFL a year ago.
Well, he was a rookie at the start of the season. Now he's in his second season, the playoffs, a whole new year starting. It's this time of the year, and all players know every snap means something at this time of the year.
A third down gamble by the Bombers, 3rd and 1, and it's not surprising, because they would not get much yardage in kicking against the wind, and Dunnigan isn't going to get it. Dunnigan is driven back. He was met head-on right at the line of scrimmage. Dunnigan didn't make any penetration at all. He was hit by O.J. Brigance with help from Matt Goodwin. So leading 1-0. Baltimore takes over at midfield with 11:03 left in the opening quarter.
Come back to Winnipeg. You get a shot of O.J. Brigance right here. Watch O.J. right here as he's sitting here. This is the key. He's going to come down. Matt Dunnigan stays too high, and that's where the contact is made. He comes through unblocked. Great penetration. Great get off the ball by the Baltimore defense. Don, I think they're making a statement early that, hey, they came to win this football game.
Baltimore leading 1-0, 1st and 10. They are at the 52. Tracy Ham looking to throw for the first time. Can't find a receiver initially. Now looks for Clark and underthrows him. It will be 2nd and 10. This is the way Baltimore lines up offensively. They're delighted to welcome Mike Pringle back. Robert Drummond, who did such a fine job in the semifinal against Toronto, is also dressed, and we might see both Pringle and Drummond in the Baltimore backfield this afternoon. Pringle with a league record 1,972 yards during regular season play. Some wondered whether he was 100% for today's game. He claims he is. Pringle takes the pass. He's caught immediately by Reggie Gibbons, the linebacker. The Bombers are doing some different things with their linebackers. The linebackers, who have tremendous speed, are dropping back into coverage.
Well, one of the things that Baltimore is doing is that they're going out offensively, and they're getting in a quad set weak. They're putting 4 receivers to the backside, and by not motioning out to that, Winnipeg can set their defense early. So what they have to do is put more motion in the offense and force Winnipeg to tip what they're doing defensively.
Josh Miller with his second punt of the game. His first traveled 74 yards for a single point. This time he kicks it to the other side of the field, and this one is going to go out of bounds back at the 9-yard line. A 43-yard punt by Josh Miller, and the Bombers are pinned up back near their own goal line. Mark?
Well, Don, this may be Baltimore's stiffest opponent in this football game, a 4-foot speaker. The Baltimore CFLers filing a complaint with the league earlier this week saying the noise was just too loud. The music, the fans was distracting. Well, the Bombers have responded by bringing an even bigger and louder sound system. There are 10,000 watts of sound coming out of this system. It's worth $150,000. That compares with the system they had last week, which cost only $20,000.
Well, noise is going to be a factor, and the crowd, if they get into it, could cause problems for Tracy Hammond calling his signals. Matt Dunnigan looks out into the flat. It's incomplete, intended for Wilcox. And I think the wind affected the flight of that throw by Matt Dunnigan.
It did, Don. You could see the ball was wobbling, and Matt Dunnigan normally throws a very tight spiral, and that one got caught up.
This is the way the Bombers line up. Jamie Holland has replaced Tim Daniel at a wide receiver position. Basically, other than that, the same offensive set for Winnipeg that faced Ottawa last week.
Don, you know, they've talked about the noise and everything with the speakers, but the bottom line, the game is going to be played on the field with the players. Keith Woodside, we get a look at him replacing the third leading rusher in the CFL this year, Blaze Bryant.
So far, Woodside has not had the football in his hands, and Dunnigan came very close to getting dropped in the end zone by Alfred Payton, as Dunnigan had to throw in desperation into coverage around the 20-yard line.
Looked like we almost had a miscue, possibly had a miscue in the backfield, but the pressure by Alfred Payton. Matt Dunnigan is seeing Alfred come right up in his face, and Matt, a younger Matt, when he was healthy, could normally outrun that pressure, but now he doesn't have the ability to elude those swifter defenders, and you could see that time he had to get rid of the ball in desperation.
Now, this could be an interesting situation for Winnipeg. Veteran Bob Cameron into the ball game. Will he give up 2 points? Will he give up a safety touch rather than try and punt against the wind? And Baltimore would get the ball back at about the 25-yard line.
I honestly feel that Bob Cameron, even though he is the best bad weather kicker in the CFL, will concede a safety right here because they will be kicking off from the 35 at that point and possibly get Baltimore back across midfield. Right now, they're going to start in field goal range if he tries to punch this ball.
Winnipeg number 6. Still third down.
And taking the time count violation was to see what the rushing scheme that Baltimore was going to set up, because they came into this game having blocked 7 punts in the regular season and 1 last week versus Toronto. So this is the team that will get after your punter.
I recall a Grey Cup game in 1965 at the old CNE Stadium in Toronto, Winnipeg and Hamilton, where Winnipeg conceded safety touch after safety touch. No, Cameron is going to punt it. Taken by Lester Smith, and he is down at the 29-yard line. I'm sure a lot of people anticipated, and I know I did, that Cal Murphy had instructed Bob Cameron to give up 2 points on the safety touch. Instead, he punted, but only a 28-yard kick.
Very gutsy call by Coach Cal Murphy to go out and punt the ball. I think what he is putting in the mind of Baltimore players right now, we've been able to stop you defensively in your first 2 series, and if you score any points, you're going to have to earn them. We're just not going to give them to you.
8:39 remaining in the opening quarter. 1-0 Baltimore leads. First and 10. The handoff to Pringle. Pringle forced to the outside and dropped for a loss by Del Lyles. Defensively, the Bombers had to make an adjustment with an injury to Lloyd Lewis. Kelly Rush comes into the right defensive end position. And this is a new position for Rush. He's accustomed to playing the left side, so he has to make an adjustment moving over to the right side.
Well, the thing is that Winnipeg is loaded up in the box. They've had 7 defenders inside that box, and Baltimore hasn't been able to figure it out blocking scheme-wise yet.
2nd and 6, Baltimore. Tracy Ham rolls to his left. Looks downfield. He's got Walter Wilson wide open for a first down, taking the ball down to the 15-yard line. A 20-yard pickup, Tracy Ham to Walter Wilson.
Don, this is what Winnipeg didn't want to allow Tracy Ham getting out of the pocket. Walter Wilson is locked one-on-one, He's coming down. He sets down before the defender can close. Donald Smith is giving him too much of a cushion. Tracy Ham recognized that, went to his open receiver.
Winnipeg is certainly familiar with Walter Wilson as he was in their training camp before joining Baltimore this year. 1st and 10 Baltimore. The CFLers are at the Winnipeg 15-yard line. 7:40 remaining in the opening quarter. 3 receivers wide right. Ham gives the ball to Pringle. Pringle breaks a couple of tackles and takes it inside the 10 before he's brought down by Paul Randolph.
Don, you know, a lot has been mentioned about the elements this afternoon. When you think about it, Tracy Ham spent the early part of his career in Edmonton, so he was very accustomed to playing at this time of the year in these type of conditions. And players on both sides of the line both have to play in these conditions today, so it's really no advantage for either team.
I think Tracy Ham had the best comment. He said, it's not like Winnipeg is playing indoors and we're playing outside. He said, we are both going against the same weather conditions. Handoff to Pringle, and Pringle is going to be stopped short of a first down, it would appear, by Paul Randolph.
Don, this is a situation where Don Matthews, does he gamble or does he send in his field goal team? At this point on the field, you don't want to give up this type of field position and just settle for a field goal. You have the wind at your back. It's a chip shot, but you're not going to get this many opportunities in the second quarter with the wind in your face.
So on 3rd and almost 2, Don Matthews leaves his offensive unit out there. He sends out his short yardage offense as he goes after it. Drummond in motion across the formation. Handoff to Pringle, and Pringle is going to be close, but I don't think he's got it, depending on the spot. He had to get inside the 5-yard line, it appeared.
Now drive it out of there. Well, it's going to really depend upon the spot. Mike Pringle tried to get that surge behind his offensive line, but Winnipeg did a great job of getting off the ball, submarining underneath, reestablishing the line of scrimmage, and it doesn't look like Baltimore picked up enough here, Don, but it's all going to depend upon the measurement.
Winnipeg players feel they've stopped them, and they have. A big defensive play for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers with 6:16 remaining in the opening quarter. Welcome back to Winnipeg Stadium. From 1983 to 1986, when Don Matthews was the head coach with the BC Lions, he and Cal Murphy had a tremendous rivalry in the Western Division, and Matthews emerged with a 3-1 playoff record against his former partner in Edmonton.
We get a look at that last play on that 3rd and short. The Winnipeg defense, especially Tony Hill, the defensive end, was able to get under the big offensive tackle, Neil Fort, and get a standoff.
First carry of the afternoon for Keith Woodside, and he takes it out to the 12-yard line, close to a 7-yard gain. Winnipeg thought that Woodside would likely handle the ball as a runner today about 17 to 20 times. Defensively, Baltimore has the same lineup that they put on the field last week and had such success with against the Toronto Argonauts in the Eastern semifinal game. Walton and Benson will alternate during the course of the afternoon at the middle linebacking position. Second down, it's Woodside again, and Woodside is not going to get a first down. The ball comes loose. It's picked up by Carl Anthony, and he takes it in for a touchdown. It looked as though the play had been stopped, and then suddenly the ball popped loose, and Carl Anthony was there to pick it up and take it in for a touchdown. A startling turn of events as far as Winnipeg is concerned, as Woodside lost the ball, and an alert Carl Anthony took it in from 14 yards out.
One of the things we talked about early in the game, Don, is you had to make sure that you protected the ball, and Alfred Payton was pulling on the ball when Woodside was trying to struggle for extra yardage, stripped him of the ball, as you'll see him trying to come off tackle right here. Watch Alfred Payton, number 56, as he slides off of Chris Walby and starts chugging at the football. He strips it out. Carl Anthony hanging around the pile as it comes free, picks up the ball, and he returns it for the first touchdown of the afternoon.
Baltimore lining up for the extra point. Leading now by a score of 7-0. And they are going to take a time count violation. It looks as though they were short a man up front. John Earl had been attempting to get into the ball game and was late coming on the field, so as a result, Donald Igwe-Beike took a deliberate time count violation.
Well, all points are very critical. You don't want to be a man short and have a player come in clean off the corner and block an extra point attempt when you have the wind at your back.
Igwe-Beike adds the point after, and it's 8-0. Baltimore leading Winnipeg with 4:50 remaining in the opening quarter here at Winnipeg Stadium, and the hero of the moment for Baltimore is number 3, Carl Anthony, as he scooped up the fumble of Keith Woodside and took it in from 14 yards out.
Well, right now, you know, you see Carl Anthony, who played the past couple of years with the Calgary Stampeders and were on their Grey Cup championship team. But once again, Alfred Payton is the key to this play as he slides off of Chris Walby, and he's chugging at the ball very close to being down right there, very questionable. But Carl Anthony, standing around, picks up the loose ball and returns it. Now we talked about discipline. How will Winnipeg handle that? Will they come back mentally ready? Will they come back jawing at the officials? They need to keep their heads in the football game.
Alfred Payton last year was with Winnipeg and was runner-up to teammate Gerald Bayless for the Outstanding Defensive Player Award in the CFL. Payton last year had 22 quarterback sacks. Started this year with Shreveport and joined Baltimore mid-season. And as Don Matthews says, we had tried about 5 or 6 different people at that rush end position, and our defense really came together when we got Alfred Payton.
Well, once they obtained Alfred Payton, it really solidified their defense. Their total yardage giving up on defense was reduced by about 85 yards a game once the addition of Alfred Payton, because he was that experienced guy to complement O.J. Brigance on the other defensive end position, and it just solidified that whole front. You got 3 solid veterans. Robert Pressberry was the rookie up front, and they all gelled together.
Watson has to pin the ball in the kicking tee, and Igwe-Beike has his kick sailed through the end zone untouched. A 95-yard kick by Donald Igwe-Beike, but it was not touched. So the Winnipeg Blue Bombers will scrimmage 1st and 10 from the 25.
Well, Igwe-Beike got too much leg into that, and a smart move by the returners of Winnipeg not to touch the ball, to allow it to carry through the end zone, because you don't get the single point on that. We'll get one more look at this touchdown by Baltimore early, as Woodside looked very close to being down on the play. But Carl Anthony, as any headsy player should do, if the ball is loose, pick it up and run. Let the officials make the decision at that point.
1st and 10 Winnipeg. Pass is complete to Gerald Alphin, and he gets up close to the 35-yard line. Brought down by Charles Anthony.
Matt Dunnigan seems very content to try to stretch this Baltimore defense vertically. He has not really attempted to go over the middle as of yet.
The 2 Geralds, Wilcox and Alphin, were the leading receivers for Winnipeg. Gerald Alphin with 73 catches, and he had 18 touchdowns during the course of the year. 2nd and 1 Winnipeg. Chris Johnstone is nailed right at the line of scrimmage. The ball comes loose, but the play had already been whistled dead. And again, Winnipeg attempting to run inside has really had some difficulty. They were stopped, remember, in a 3rd down gamble at the Baltimore 52-yard line, and this play was stuffed at the Winnipeg 34.
Well, Robinson and Cusey were concerns of the Winnipeg coaching staff, and the Baltimore coaching staff felt that they could take advantage of the 2 young offensive guards in their first year in the CFL. And Gerald Bayless, as you spoke about it earlier, last year's outstanding defensive player in the CFL, and Robert Pressberry, the 2 defensive tackles for Baltimore, have done a fine job early in the game stuffing the run of Winnipeg.
Cameron's first punt from out of the end zone traveled just 28 yards. This time he stands at his own 20-yard line. Ken Burris is onside in the event that this kick should be mishandled. It is, and who's got it? Winnipeg claim they have recovered, and the officials concur. Brendan Rogers, a key member of the special teams, comes up with the loose ball with 3:09 left in the first quarter. Backup linebacker, number 35, Brendan Rogers, has been a key special teams performer all season for Winnipeg. On October 23rd against BC, he had 8 special team tackles, and he comes up with a huge play for the Bombers, scooping up the loose ball on this third down punt.
That's what continuing hustling will do for you, and Brendan Rogers has been a player that has done that throughout his career. He's the leader of the Bombers special team, and that time maintaining his lane control coming down the field, knowing what his job responsibility was, he was rewarded with the fumble recovery.
Winnipeg 1st and 10, the ball at the 53. Wherever you're looking in this afternoon, we hope you're enjoying the action from Winnipeg Stadium, and a special hello to those folks in Baltimore who are watching on WMAR. Woodside, the ball carrier, he got back to the line of scrimmage and is brought down there by Scott Miller. Miller has moved into the ball game as a backup, not one of the starting front four for Baltimore. And now he is heading back to the sidelines. Well, they're going to leave him in. He started off to the Baltimore bench, but remains in there. Walton has moved out from a linebacking position. 2nd and 10. Dunnigan throwing over the middle. Jackson's got it for a first down.
Matt Dunnigan is one of the quarterbacks in the CFL who has a strong enough arm to throw into a very brisk headwind. And Matt, the passes that you've seen, and even that last one to Alfred Jackson, have been right on the money here in the first quarter. He hasn't been bothered by the wind, so there was a question which Matt Dunnigan will show up. I think we've seen a good sign thus far here in the first quarter. Which one will?
Intended for Wilcox, incomplete, and Dunnigan took a shot just as he released the football. Alfred Payton, the former teammate, was in Dunnigan's face again, as he was far too often for Matt Dunnigan's liking back on October 29th at Memorial Stadium.
Well, Matt Dunnigan, along with Tracy Gravely, there's a lot of speed on both teams in the linebacking core, and Tracy Gravely was one of those tweener players that they thought they could convert into linebacker, and he led the team in tackles Baltimore-wise during the regular season, and that time you could see the speed in getting to Matt Dunnigan.
2nd and 10, Winnipeg. The ball is at the Baltimore 42. The toss to Woodside, and Woodside looking for an opening. One does not materialize, and he's brought down by Ken Benson at the 40.
Well, the inside tackles for Baltimore are getting the job done. They're really getting the penetration up the middle, allowing gaps for the linebackers to run through. In this Winnipeg running game, they're going to have to reassert themselves. They got to go back to the drawing boards. Offensive coordinator Mike Kelly is going to have to talk with his young troops and see what they can get figured out about this Baltimore defense.
Well, legally, we're not allowed to refer to Baltimore as the Colts, and CRTC regulations would prevent us from referring in any way, shape, or form, I guess, to those gentlemen we just saw going down the sideline.
Well, how many times are you going to say Colts before you figure that out now?
This punt is blocked. Walton blocks it, and it's picked up by Ken Barras. Walton blocks the third down punt, and Baltimore, with 34 seconds remaining in the first quarter, will take over 1st and 10 at the Winnipeg 44-yard line. This has been one of the strengths of the Baltimore team all year. They have blocked 5 third down punts and 2 field goal attempts.
Well, one of the things you can't take for granted is the field goals, and Ryan Carey was the wingman on the right for Winnipeg. He allowed Alvin Walton an easy inside release, and Walton, full head of steam, got to Bob Cameron and blocked the kick.
Tracy Ham gets to the outside. Ham looks downfield and completes the pass to Robert Clark. This is going to be close to a first down. As a matter of fact, it is a Baltimore first down. Matt Goodwin has been the key man most of the year in blocking punts, but Alvin Walton got through on that one. And that last play may have also been the final play of the first quarter.
But Baltimore is going to burn their time out here to try a field goal attempt, seems like, because they have the wind at their back, and it's not going to do them any good trying to go into the second quarter with this field goal position. So if you take the time out, bring your field goal team in with the wind at your back, you can possibly get your 3 points going into the second quarter.
Well, the scoreboard clock shows the time has expired.
But see, the play clock was running down, and he couldn't get his field goal team on the field in time before he would have lost the 5 yards. So a very smart move by Coach Don Matthews.
This will be a 39-yard field goal attempt for Donald Igwe-Bike. He was replaced for 2 weeks in September by Charles Bauman as the Baltimore place kicker. The ball is mishandled on the snap from center, and Igwe-Bike attempted to throw downfield. It's an incomplete pass, and Winnipeg takes over. Pardon me, it's going to be second down when we come back. But that is the end of the first quarter. By opting for a field goal attempt with the wind on the final play of the first quarter on first down, with Igwe-Bike throwing an incomplete pass, it is 2nd and 10 for Baltimore going against the wind to start the second quarter.
Well, mentally right now you have Baltimore winning that battle, because even though they didn't get the field goal on the last play of the first quarter, they still maintain possession of the football, so it has to be somewhat demoralizing for Winnipeg.
Tracy Ham rolls to his left. Now he has to come back the other way. And he's brought down for a loss by Greg Clark. Actually, Tracy Ham ran into one of his own players in trying to cut upfield. And that enabled Clark to come over and make the tackle.
Well, there's some confusion with the blocking scheme of Winnipeg. You saw Pardonish talking with Pringle, trying to figure out, hey, who has who, as Ham tries to come back against the grain. And this is one of the things that make Tracy so effective. Neil Fort couldn't make a decision whether to go out and continue to block or go upfield. Robert Clark hustling on the plate, tracked down Tracy Ham for the sack.
Greg Clark matched his jersey number during the course of the season with 58 tackles. And he comes up with a big play in bringing down Tracy Ham. And Igwe-Bike will now be attempting a 44-yard field goal into the wind. His longest of the year was a 50-yarder. And this one is going to be hauled in by Dal Lyles at the 4-yard line, and the linebacker brings it back to about the 18. I really don't think Igwe-Bike was even looking at the uprights. He was simply kicking the ball and trying to put it down into the corner of the Winnipeg end of the field.
That's a coaching maneuver that was used by Coach Wally Buono earlier in the year when he lost his punter Maddich in a game, and Mark McLaughlin came in attempting long field goal attempts, which were really punt placements in a way, and Igwe-Bike did the same thing. He angled that towards the sideline, knowing that a punt by Miller probably would hang up and end up with negative yardage.
Winnipeg with the win for the first time in the ball game, trailing by 8 points. Dunnigan looks upfield for Wilcox, incomplete. Matt Goodwin was coming on a blitz and was about a stride late inning. Mark?
Well, Don, we've seen both Bob Cameron and Duncan Jemmy have problems handling one half in the game. Cameron helped the window see that caught a bit of
the yard for Baltimore to hear signals with this crowd at Winnipeg Stadium roaring each time Tracy Ham moves over the football. Polite applause when the Winnipeg offense gets set to scrimmage. 2nd and 10. Dunnigan chased from behind, and he's caught. Brought down by Gerald Bayless. Was concerned that Gerald Bayless, who has been plagued much of the season with a muscle, not 100% for this game, but when he has to, he can crank it up.
Well, that time working with the rookie, as he flushed Matt Dunnigan originally, he was able to break the contain of Tracy Gravely, but Gerald Bayless shows he still has those wheels. He can run down a Matt Dunnigan, and a big play for the Baltimore defense.
Bob Cameron stands back in his end zone for this 3rd down punt. taken by Danny and 60 yards by Cameron to make that Carl Anthony took into the end zone for the major score. Really in the to choose.
And you win that entire first quarter, but now the true challenge. How will Baltimore handle the wind directly in their face?
Baltimore 12:42 remaining in the first half. Hand off to Pringle. Pringle back to the inside. And the leading rusher in the CFL has about a 7-yard gain.
Well, this is what Baltimore hoped to be able to come into this game this afternoon to do, is establish the running game, get that surge from the big horses up front, and you can see as they're reach blocking here, trying to pin the Winnipeg defensive line inside, but Mike Pringle cuts back underneath the flow and able to pick up 7 yards on first down.
Guy Earl came out of his guard position to lead block for Pringle, and it will be 2nd and 3, Baltimore.
Not often does a running back have an opportunity to have identical twins as 2 of his bodyguards.
The Earl twins, number 60 and 63. The Bombers imploring the crowd to make more noise. Hand off to Pringle. Pringle going to the outside. He gets a key block, and Pringle is finally hauled down by the safety, Errol Brown. A 20-yard run for Mike Pringle. And it's this ability to move the ball along the ground that could be a big factor in favor of Baltimore operating against the wind.
The key is that they had all of the Bombers pinned inside box, and watch Guy Earl as he gets around the corner and gets a pin on Robert Clark. He only had to slow him down, and Earl Brown was forced to come up from his safety position, ride him out of bounds. But right now, Baltimore is winning the war in the trenches.
1st and 10, Baltimore from the Winnipeg 41. The give to Pringle again, and Pringle picks up about 4.
The thing that this does, Don, more than anything else, is that it keeps Matt Dunnigan on the sideline with the wind at his back, and he doesn't have an opportunity to come out on the field offensively, and he also gets cold and stiff. And so when he comes back into the game, he may not be as fluid as an athlete as he wants to be.
Winnipeg making a defensive adjustment as Baltimore scrimmages 2nd and 6. The ball is at the Winnipeg 38-yard line. Winnipeg brings in 2 extra linebackers, Sangaris and Brendan Rogers. Hand off again to Pringle. Pringle trying to go outside, and he will be very close to another Baltimore first down. He had to get close to the 30-yard line, and it appears he is there.
Don, once again, we talked about the Earl brothers, the offensive line of Baltimore getting the job done. The right guard here, Guy Earl, you'll see him. He's going to pull out. He's going to lead way for Mike Pringle. As he gets around the corner, watch the hustle as he makes sure that his back can get to those yardsticks. As he comes around, knocks off Donald Smith, allowing that lane for Pringle to pick up the first down.
1st and 10, Baltimore from the Winnipeg 31. 10-10 remaining in the 2nd quarter. Baltimore in front, 8-0. Hand off to Pringle. Pringle, following a couple of good blocks, will get about 5 more. And as long as he continues to pick up 5 yards per carry, Winnipeg is going to have problems.
The thing is that they're changing up their blocking schemes. At all times, before we saw John Earl on the lead block, that time they came with a counter, but the lead blocker was Sheldon Canley, who had gone out on a wing, came back in, kicked out, allowing Pringle to pick up the 6 yards on first down.
And Baltimore in this 2nd quarter is certainly taking the wind advantage away from the Bombers. Pringle has carried 11 times so far for 53 yards. Pringle again. This time he's dropped and it's pulled off. Ran the leg, wasn't about to let go.
Someone on the Winnipeg side of things had to make a play. Paul Randolph that time shot the gap. He saw the trap coming, came underneath, grabbed him by the leg.
And Brendan Rogers came in to finish the job as Winnipeg has moved Rogers and Randolph, or Sangaris, into the ball game, and what they think is an obvious running situation trying to stop Mike Pringle, and they did that time. And now Donald Igwe-Bike will attempt a 35-yard field goal. The kick is blocked. The ball in a scrum right at the line of scrimmage, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are going to take over with 9 minutes remaining in the first half. The third time that Donald Igwe-Bike has lined up in field goal formation. This time he drove the ball right into the line. I'm not sure whether he hit one of the Winnipeg players or one of his own players. It looked as though it may have hit Guy Earl in the back.
It hit him right in the back of the head. What he was trying to do was hammer the ball, keep it low, and he didn't get any height on it. He hit it fat, as you can see it right here, and it goes right into the back of the head of his left guard and ricocheted down, and Winnipeg will have the ball at the 25-yard line.
The first time he attempted a field goal, a bad snap resulted in Igwe-Bike throwing an incomplete pass. Winnipeg now takes over, 1st and 10. The Bombers are at their own 25-yard line. Intended for Jamie Holland, and it almost deflected off his hands into the arms of a defender, Carl Anthony.
Well, that pass, Matt Dunnigan didn't get much on it. You could see it wobble. Matt might be pressing because he's been on the sideline quite some time here in the second quarter, and you can get stiff standing over there.
.8:35 remaining in the first half. Baltimore leads Winnipeg by a score of 8-0. 2nd and 10 Winnipeg. Here comes the blitz as Payton was coming off the corner. And was it procedure or offside?
Still second. Offside. Baltimore number 56. Still second.
So Alfred Payton moved prematurely, and it will be Winnipeg's 2nd and 5. Payton was clearly into the Bomber backfield prior to the ball being snapped.
Well, he figured if he ran that far, he might as well hit someone while he was back there.
Might just as well keep on going. Wilcox makes the catch, and he stumbles forward for a Winnipeg first down.
You could see that ball carrying with the wind as Matt Dunnigan delivered it to Gerald Wilcox. You'll see it right here as it's in flight. He came in motion. No one covered him. He ran into that zone, and the ball came in front of him as the wind carried it.
Wilcox, 111 regular season catches. Only Alan Pitts of Calgary 3 times, James Murphy of Winnipeg, and Terry Greer of Toronto have ever caught more passes in a single season. This time it's Gerald Alphen for a gain of about 6 or 7 yards. And I think this is something that Winnipeg will have to do. Stay with that short passing game and be patient.
The short underneath passing game. Matt Dunnigan, majority of his passes have gone to the outside. He hasn't attempted going over the middle, and that's one of the areas where Baltimore has been very effective this year, and they got a lot of speed, so he feels that if he can stretch the defense continuously, hopefully he can get one of those shovel passes to Woodside up inside.
The toss to Woodside, and Baltimore has really shut down the Winnipeg ground game. And they are going to force the Bombers into a punting situation. Dunnigan had completed 7 of 12 passes for 64 yards before this most recent toss to Keith Woodside that was stopped in its tracks once again by a solid Baltimore defensive effort.
One of the things that we've seen different with Winnipeg than we have with Baltimore is the effectiveness of the young guards. Both teams are playing 2 rookie guards, but the Earl twins have been more effective in getting out, sealing the corner for Mike Pringle than Cusey and Robeson have for Winnipeg and Keith Woodside.
Kevin Robson is the man who handles the 3rd down punting chores. He got it back cleanly to Cameron, and now Lester Smith tries to bring it back. He was hit head on and driven back, and the Winnipeg player who made contact with him was shaken up in the play. Baltimore leading by a score of 8-0 as the result of a 14-yard romp by Carl Anthony on a fumble recovery. The ball coming out of the hands of Keith Woodside. And now Tracy Ham is looking at 1st and 10 from his own 19-yard line. A tremendous hit by Del Lyles on Lester Smith on the punt return. Lyles was slow in getting up but did not require medical attention, and as a result remains in the ball game. But what a collision between these two.
I mean, he had a straight run at him and he planted him right there, but Del Lyles went straight to the turf. Normally players get burners when they fall like that. Lyles, with the long timeout, was able to stay in the game, and he's been a force for Winnipeg defensively here in the first half. And their linebackers are going to have to come up big on this series because they have Baltimore pent back in bad field position with the wind in their face. But the running game has been strong, and they need to be able to stop it.
There was a feeling among members of the Baltimore coaching staff that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers would have to take chances up front to try and prevent Baltimore from running the football. They would have to commit their linebackers to the run. And we have seen evidence of Winnipeg in this second quarter going at times with 5, even 6 linebackers.
Don, what we're getting right now on the field is a shoe problem with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And the officials are making them change footwear. They're out here and they're playing on AstroTurf with cleats, grass cleats, and that's one of the actually baseball shoes. And that's what Bobby Evans has on, is a pair of baseball shoes. And the officials are saying that they're possibly hazardous. If we can get Mark Lee to get a look at everything on the sideline there for us, but that's one of the problems right now that they're examining. Let's go down to Mark.
Out of the game, Bobby Evans has been sent out of the game and told to change the spikes on his shoes. You can see Stan Mikolas right now is also having to change his. Bobby Evans is wearing basically what you'd call plastic baseball cleats, and the referees say that the cleats themselves are too sharp. Somebody's going to get hurt. Stan Mikolas also has very sharp baseball cleats on. They've told him to take them off, and so right now the Bombers are looking for new footwear.
And this could take some time in making those cleat adjustments because the players have spatted their shoes, and very quickly they have sent equipment people to the dressing room for new footwear for both Stan Mikolas and Bobby Evans. And Cal Murphy is really unhappy with the decision that was made. And now Baltimore gets set to scrimmage, 1st and 10 from the 19. The last time they had the ball, Baltimore ran 6 times and consumed 4 minutes on the second quarter clock. They run again with Pringle. Pringle tried to get outside, is forced to come back the other way, and he's dropped for a loss. Good crowd in attendance this afternoon at Winnipeg Stadium. They anticipated about 26 or 27,000 showing up for this Eastern Final. An injured Baltimore player is being tended to right now. Sean Beals is down. 6:29 is the time remaining in the first half. And at the Winnipeg bench, they're continuing to work on the footwear of Stan Mikolas and Bobby Evans. 8-0. Baltimore leads Winnipeg. 6:29 is the time left in the first half.
Welcome back to the Eastern Final in Winnipeg, where Baltimore holds an 8-0 lead on the Bombers. 6:29 to go in the first half. Cal Murphy is fuming down here on the Bombers bench. He just chased one of the officials out onto the field because he's so upset that at least 3 or 4 of his players have had to change their cleats. Cal went so far that his headset cord snapped in half. He had to go find another one. Don?
Cal Murphy is one who gets very involved on the sidelines. And he certainly did when the players were sent off for what the officials ruled were illegal cleats. Here's Tracy Ham being chased and caught. Bobby Evans getting new footwear. May have had a little additional speed in pursuit of Tracy Ham.
Well, not only with the speed, but the emotion. You got the players now for Winnipeg fired up. You know, you've gone in as officials, and you've had a part to play in this contest, and Evans came from the backside on a halfback blitz, was relentless, and you could see Ham lose his footing at the end. Winnipeg is going to be forced to go through wholesale changes offensively. Gerald Alphen has those cleats on. Keith Woodside has those cleats on. So you're seeing players hustling and scrambling right now, trying to get the proper footwear on.
Winnipeg will get the ball back in pretty good field position as Josh Miller is punting into the wind for the first time. And I think he's going to let the clock run down. He's going to take a time count penalty.
Baltimore might have been a player short. Also, Matt Dunnigan, the quarterback for Winnipeg, is scrambling on the sideline right now, trying to get his shoes changed. That's one of the things, and that was actually started several years ago here in Winnipeg by linebacker James West, who wore those baseball-type cleats here on the AstroTurf. But I think the officials, as Mark alluded to earlier, felt that it was too dangerous with that sharp edge in this cold weather for the players who didn't wear them. And if you get them on the skin, you could rip it.
We anticipated earlier that Winnipeg might concede a safety touch when they were punting against the wind, and Baltimore is going to do it. Josh Miller, rather than try and kick into that strong wind, is going to concede 2 points. Bob Cameron punted out of the end zone, a 28-yard effort. Josh Miller, after taking the time count violation, concedes the 2 points. Winnipeg is on the board with 5:35 remaining in the first half.
Don, one of the things that started earlier in the week, and it was in the papers about the hotel, the music here in Winnipeg, and the mind games continue on. Don Matthews now one-up Cal Murphy again with the shoe situation. That's a move that comes from the sideline. The officials don't normally take that initiative right off the back because the players start to examine the footwear. But some players from Baltimore possibly complained about it, and at that point they had to step in and force the move.
Well, Cal Murphy and Don Matthews were co-coaches, assistant coaches during the Edmonton dynasty, 78 to 82. And I suppose the old adage applies, familiarity can breed contempt, because they don't really like each other anymore, do they?
I think you brought it up that they used to roam together on the road or something like that. And Cal almost came out of his chair at you at that point. And no, there's no love lost between these two, but there's no love lost between these two teams this year. They split during the regular season, and this is for it all this afternoon.
Dunnigan looking for Jamie Holland. There's a penalty flag. Carl Anthony may be flagged for pass interference.
He's pleading his case, but I think it's going to fall on deaf ears, and that will be a big break for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They've been stagnant offensively.
Illegal contact on an eligible receiver.
It's a 10-yard penalty as Carl Anthony is flagged for interference. 5:17 remaining in the first half. 8-2, Baltimore leads Winnipeg.
And now how effective will Matt Dunnigan be with just the normal footwear on his feet? He had to change his shoes, and so how will he maneuver around?
Pass complete to Jackson, but there's a penalty flag. Jackson will have a first down depending on the penalty call.
Well, it's going to be holding. He was allowed the time by his offensive line, and holding is a very liberal rule in the CFL, and not often is it called, but this one is going to cost the Bombers.
Holding. Winnipeg number 60. Repeat first down.
Dave Van Conant, the center, is having some problems with Gerald Bayless, and it appeared as though he put the clutches on him in order to prevent him from getting to the quarterback, Matt Dunnigan.
I don't know if you call it a problem. Looked more like a suplex on that last move because he grabbed him up high and slung him down to the turf, but cost the Bombers 10 yards offensively.
4:44 remaining in the first half. Dunnigan rolls, throws for Jackson. He'll be very close to the first down.
The key to that play was the reverse boot by Matt Dunnigan. He started right, came back out to his left. He got the floor of the defense going opposite of where he wanted to end up at. And you could see the arm strength of a Matt Dunnigan getting it there with a nice tight spiral. Jackson right at the first down sticks.
Just a little shy of a first down, 2nd and inches Winnipeg, when Dunnigan established a league record 713 passing yards against Edmonton on the 14th of July. On the receiving end of 7 of those throws for 308 yards was Alfred Jackson.
Alfred Jackson went deep and often in that game versus the Edmonton Eskimos, and it was an outstanding evening for both of those players. And a forgotten man in that contest, Don, and he's been gone for most of the season. David Williams also caught 10 passes in that game for 226 yards.
Second and inches, Winnipeg. Dunnigan keeps. He is throwing back, and this might be a face mask call as Dunnigan was driven back after getting the first down yardage.
Major foul. Face mask. Baltimore number 98.
So Winnipeg's field position improves dramatically with the face mask call against Gerald Bayless, taking the ball inside the Baltimore 40.
Well, now the critical mistakes are starting to mount up on Baltimore. Right in the middle of your screen, Gerald Bayless, the left arm, as you'll see it up around the headgear, twisting it back on a Matt Dunnigan. The official right on top, cost him 15.
8-2, Baltimore leads. Movement at the line of scrimmage. This could be a free one. Pass is complete to Jackson, and he takes it to the 20. It looked as though Scott Miller had moved prior to the ball being snapped. Dunnigan with a free throw delivered it to Alfred Jackson.
Well, Matt Dunnigan now is starting to find his rhythm. He had it somewhat in the first quarter. Early in this quarter, he kind of lost it. But now he's into the game mentally. And when you get a Matt Dunnigan playing as tenacious as he is right now, can cause a lot of problems for your secondary. And Alfred Jackson, twice in this sequence, has caught big passes.
Took a while for Winnipeg to find a position for Alfred Jackson. He was with the team as both a defensive back and a receiver last year. This year he has been used exclusively as a wideout. Pass complete to Chris Johnstone at the, no, they ruled incomplete at the 15-yard line. Dunnigan now 9 of 14 for 102 yards.
Well, that time Baltimore knew they needed to bring more pressure on Matt Dunnigan, came with the blitz. Got up in Matt's face, forced him to get rid of it early. Johnstone just not able to make the reception.
Quite an amazing year for Matt Dunnigan. He would have established career highs in a number of areas had he not missed 7 games as a result of an injury. Second and 10. Dunnigan's in trouble. Won't get a chance to throw. Hauled down by Matt Goodwin.
Don, when Baltimore has had a big play guy all year long, Matt Dunnigan has done it. And with 3 minutes to go here in the second quarter in Winnipeg, 8-2 Baltimore.
Welcome back to Winnipeg, where strong winds continue to keep the score down low. 8-2 Baltimore with 3 minutes to go in the first half. Coming up on Live at the Half, we're going to Graceland. We'll talk to Pepper Rogers, part of a group given provisional approval for a new CFL franchise in Memphis. We'll also join Scott Oak and our game day guests, Ron Lancaster and David Archer, live from Calgary, the scene of the Western Final. BC and the Stampeders coming up right after this game. Don?
Troy Westwood will attempt a 30-yard field goal. The kick is up, and it is good. And the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have closed to within 3 points with 2:53 remaining in the first half. Well, many people anticipated that this would be a whale of a battle for this Eastern Division Championship. The teams split their 2 regular season games. Winnipeg winning on July 28th, 39-32 in the showdown for first place at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore on the 29th of October. Baltimore won 57-10. But the Winnipeg players used that game as motivation in preparing for this one. And as Don Matthews said, you can't take those 57 points and bring them into Winnipeg Stadium for this playoff encounter.
Well, I think it's been proven already here in the first half, Don. If you look at the scoreboard with Baltimore leading 8-5, it's been a total defensive battle. Tracy Ham, you see his number, only 3 of 4 today for 38 yards. He hasn't been willing to put the ball in the air. But the Winnipeg rush has been a big part of that. He's tried to pass, but they've been able to track him down.
Winnipeg again going with that additional linebacker in the defensive role as Chris Sangaris comes into the ball game. Baltimore is concentrated on a running game, revolving around Mike Pringle, and why not? He led the league in rushing. Ham fakes to Pringle, now tries to get outside of Del Lyles. He's forced to come back the other way, and down he goes at the 30. Tremendous pursuit on the part of the Blue Bombers in tracking down Tracy Ham.
Well, that's one of the things that this defense has been built on. Del Lyles was the guy who was able to track him down, but misdirection is what Baltimore is trying to employ. You'll see the fake to Mike Pringle and the naked boot by Tracy Ham, but Del Lyles stayed at home. That was the key. Discipline. Talked about it earlier, and discipline covers a lot of areas, and you saw it right there by the linebacker Lyles.
2nd and 14 now, Baltimore with 2:34 remaining in the first half. Baltimore leading by 3. This time the handoff goes to Pringle, and Pringle is dropped as he got up to the 35 by Greg Clark. Cal Murphy has been very high in his praise of Greg Clark, a linebacker who joined the Winnipeg team late last season. Murphy says that Clark's one of the best linebackers he has had the pleasure of coaching.
Well, the second-year bomber out of Arizona State, you can see as he reads the flow of Mike Pringle, and he steps up just as Mike arrived at the line of scrimmage and delivered the blow to knock him off stride and stop him short of the first down, and Baltimore forced the punt once again.
And Winnipeg is going to get the ball back in good field position. They have 3 people deep. Pierce, Boyko, and Norris Thomas are awaiting the 3rd down punt by Josh Miller. And again, it looks as though he might take a time count violation, but Winnipeg has called a timeout. There are only 2 seconds remaining. Make that 3 seconds on the 20-second clock.
Don, one of the things that may be evident as this game closes down as we get late in the second half is that when you think back to Cal Murphy not electing to go for that safety when he was pent deep and electing to let Bob Cameron punt away, and Baltimore came out of that scenario with no points on the scoreboard, where they had the mishandling of the field goal attempt, and then they were trying to force a field goal attempt into the wind, couldn't get the distance on it, and Baltimore ended up with nothing. And with 3 points being the difference in the game right now, this game could hinge on a kick at the end. .202 is the time remaining in the half.
Norris Thomas takes it on a bounce. Thomas cuts inside Stan Petrie and gets across midfield. Grant Carter came over to make the tackle at the Baltimore 54-yard line. A 34-yard punt. Pretty good punt by Miller into the wind. A 10-yard run back by Thomas.
The key was, Don, he kept the punt low. He didn't get it up into that stiff headwind and let the wind bat it down. He hit it low. He drove it. But now Matt Dunnigan had some things happen positive in that last offensive sequence. Now Matt Dunnigan has an opportunity to possibly pull his team even or put them ahead.
Dunnigan looks deep for Alpha, and he's wide open at the 20-yard line. The Twin Geralds have been a key all season for Winnipeg, and Dunnigan and Alphen combined for a 36-yard gain.
Well, Charles Anthony was the man running one-on-one, but Alphen with the swim move. Anthony bit down. Alphen kept running. Matt Dunnigan put the touch on the ball, got it to his inside slot. Big play, first down at the 23-yard line, Winnipeg.
Winnipeg 1st and 10 at the Baltimore 18-yard line. 3 receivers wide to the right. Dunnigan looks left in the corner of the end zone. Jackson can't hang on. Good coverage by Irvin Smith. He got an inside position on Jackson and wasn't about to let him catch the football.
That's one of the things that Irv Smith does as well as any defensive back in the CFL, is that he drives receivers into the sideline. He doesn't allow them to come back in. Jackson able to get only one arm on that ball because the other one was trying to push off Irvin Smith. We get a good look at it here. Nice one-on-one battle as the 2 players are going down. No advantage gain. Baltimore with a good defensive play.
Irvin Smith, an all-star cornerback in the Eastern Division this year. 2nd and 10. Dunnigan looks over the middle. He's got Jackson, and this will be a first down at the 5. .121 remaining in the half. Winnipeg 1st and goal.
Well, Dunnigan feels that with Jackson that he can play against any corner in the league because of his size at 6'3". That time, a comeback route versus Irvin Smith, who lost his footing in the seam right there, where it's normally pitcher's mound in the baseball setup here at Winnipeg, and Winnipeg has the ball 1st and goal.
The ball is at the 6. Winnipeg 1st and goal. Off to Woodside. Woodside trying to follow the blocking of Chris Johnstone, and Baltimore stacks it up at the 5.
One of the things with Winnipeg this afternoon, they've been almost totally ineffective running the ball. They just haven't been able to get a surge up front. They haven't been able to cut off the lanes of those Baltimore defenders, and once again, very minimal yardage on 1st down running the football.
We're in the final minute of the 1st half at Winnipeg Stadium. The Blue Bombers trailing 8-5. 2nd and goal from the 5. Dunnigan mishandles the snap from center. Dunnigan attempts to drive after recovering, but is stopped at the 4.
Mistakes. You can't afford mistakes when you're down here. You don't get down in this end of the field often enough to have mishaps like this. Just a poor exchange from center. You'll see the ball. Dunnigan pulls out. He got the hands together early. He closed up before Von Konen could get the ball back to him, and the ball fell down, but he was alert enough to pick up his own fumble and get some yardage out of it. Now they're forced into a field goal attempt by Westwood, but a very bad angle, Don.
It appeared as though Dunnigan was pulling out prior to the ball being snapped, and now Troy Westwood, who tied a league playoff record last week against Ottawa with 6 field goals, will try and tie this game at 8, and he's successful with 39 seconds remaining in the 1st half.
Well, that's one of the things that when you have an opportunity, you need to come up with points. Even though the drive faltered, they were able to come up with the field goal and draw even going into the half. So what we're going to possibly come down to is 30 minutes of football left in this season between these two teams, a matter of desire, who wants it most.
The Blue Bombers have not scored a touchdown in the playoffs since the 1st quarter against Ottawa. They've been relying on Troy Westwood field goals. 6 of them, as I mentioned, against Ottawa, 2 this afternoon against Baltimore, and this from a team that established the club record this year for scoring.
And that touchdown that they scored last week versus Ottawa came off a Michael Richardson turnover, and the first play, Matt Dunnigan was able to hook up with Alfred Jackson for the score, but since then, they haven't done much offensively.
And Baltimore's offense has been strictly a running game. Tracy Ham has not had any success throwing. He's going to try and take some time off the clock. Reggie Gibbons comes in and makes sure he goes down back at the 27. Winnipeg has used up its timeout, so they cannot kill the clock with 31 seconds remaining in the 1st half.
Well, Baltimore realizes that they have the opportunity to run 3 plays, and by running those 3 plays that they will run out the 1st half. Tracy Ham once again will take the snap, run off more time, and then on 3rd down, you will see the same sequence where they will do the same thing and just kill the clock, not allowing Winnipeg with another offensive opportunity.
On 2nd down, Ham is going to run the clock right down. And finally, he takes the knee back at the 24-yard line with only 8 seconds remaining.
Well, you know, when we came here today, you know, people thought that you might see an offensive show, but it's turned out to be a total defensive struggle. The only touchdown came via the defense on the questionable fumble of Keith Woodside that Carl Anthony returned for the touchdown. But both coaching staffs, now they're going to be tested at halftime. What adjustments can they make to come out for the 2nd half?
Well, this Eastern Final is going to be a 30-minute football game with Baltimore and Winnipeg heading to their respective dressing rooms, deadlocked at 8 here at Winnipeg Stadium. Mark?
Cal Murphy, the wind has effectively cut this game in half. You only have 2 quarters with it. Is it your assessment this team has to do better when you've got the wind?
Well, we had opportunities to put it in there, and we just didn't do it. You know, when they had the win, the officials blew that bad call on us on the fumble, and they picked up and ran in for a touchdown. They didn't do anything with the win. It's just the fact that I think we both had our chances and haven't done anything with it.
What are you going to say at the half, Cal?
Well, when we get them going on the inside, then we'll get them on the outside.
All right, Cal, thanks for your time. Cal Murphy and his Winnipeg Blue Bombers in an 8-8 tie with Baltimore at the half here in Winnipeg. When we come back, we'll go live to Calgary and rejoin Scott Oak, Ron Lancaster, and David Archer.
First half of the East Division Championship game in Winnipeg is complete. Baltimore and Winnipeg are on even terms. Back with you now at McMahon Stadium in Calgary. I'm Scott Oak, joined by our game day analyst, the head coach of the Grey Cup champions, Ron Lancaster, and Sacramento quarterback David Archer. Ron, let's go back to the point you made at the start of this telecast. You thought the East Division final would be won in the trenches, and so far that battle has been a soft.
Yeah, Baltimore's done a real good job with their offensive line of running the football, but I think Winnipeg's got to be very pleased with the job that they've done protecting Matt Dunnigan. They have given him time to throw, and they've made plays because of that.
David, you talked at the start of the telecast about the quarterback matchup. There has not been a lot of offense in the East Division final, but Matt Dunnigan has played well.
Matt Dunnigan's played very well. He's gotten involved in the game, and I think he's kept his poise. On the other hand, I think Don Matthews has got to be concerned because his guy's not in the game at all.
Ron, if you want to talk about mistakes, let's talk about special teams. The East Division final is a game that could drive coaches like yourself crazy.
Yeah, when you get a field goal blocked, a punt blocked, and a couple times not enough guys on the field, boy, that really upsets coaches. And right now, Cal Murphy's got to be very pleased with the performance of his football club. The big thing is they hurt themselves, you know, that third down gamble. When you decide to go early in a football game with 1 yard, that offensive line has got to come off and knock people around. They got stood up immediately, and Dunnigan had nowhere to go. And you know, this is everything goes today. All the marbles are on the line, you know, all those sayings. Man, get it, job done. Get it done.
David, the weather is always a factor in a game on the prairies in November. It does not seem to have taken the Winnipeg skill players out of it.
No, the Winnipeg guys have adjusted very well, made some tough catches for Matt. It's yet to be seen how it's going to work for Baltimore because they're just not throwing the football.
Ron, quickly, adjustments in the second half. I know that halftime speeches and brilliant coaching decisions at the half are often highly overrated. You say it's simply a matter of narrowing down the package now that you know what's working.
Yeah, narrow it down, right down. 3-4 plays is all you're going to run. But defensively, crowd the line of scrimmage when a team's going against a win. Winnipeg put in the extra linebacker. They're going to run the football. Take it away from them.
All right, Baltimore and Winnipeg in the East Division final is the first half of Final Sunday on the CFL on CBC for us here in Calgary. Stampeders and the BC Lions about an hour and a half away from kickoff in the West Division final. Let's go to field level at McMahon Stadium now and bring in Steve Armitage.
Thank you, Scott. I'm not really smiling. It's frozen this way. It is cold here. It is -5. The wind chill factor is -23. But the big concern here at McMahon for the game between the Stampeders and the Lions is the wind blowing out of the northwest at 51 clicks an hour. Just a few moments ago, Doug Flutie, the Stampeders quarterback, was out on the field running, warming up. I asked him what he thought of the temperature and the wind conditions. He said the temperature wasn't bad compared to last year when he thought the wind chill factor was about -80. He said today it was positively balmy, and he wasn't going to do anything special to get ready for the temperature today. I talked to Kent Austin, who will start at quarterback for the BC Lions. He's not going to wear anything special other than a thermal turtleneck and knit running pants underneath his normal football gear. I just talked to Rob Smith of the BC Lions, who walked off. He has his shirt sleeves rolled right up. I said, "Aren't you cold?" He said, "Nah." It's only -5, wind chill factor -23, but the big factor, wind out of the northwest of 51K. Now from the cold sidelines to the warm booth, Kirsten Dan.
Thanks, Steve. Conditions are ideal in the booth. We've got a couple of quarterbacks with Scott Oak, so Kepley says we've got to talk defense. It was a big story last week for both the Lions and Stampeders. Let you play defensive coordinator. How would you stop the Calgary Stampeders offense if you're on BC's side?
Well, Chris, this is an offense that's coming in hitting on all cylinders. I don't think you stop them. You just try to slow them down. The one thing that you're going to try to take away, if you can, Alan Pitts. BC's rosters, they've suited up 8 defensive backs. I would double Alan Pitts somewhere. But in that case, Doug Flutie still has 5 or 6 other receivers he can throw to.
Okay, 8 DBs. Let's assume they stop the pass. There's still a very improved running game for Calgary this year.
Without a doubt. Tony Stewart has carried the mail extremely well for him inside, but you've got to beat him up. And the one thing after that that is not accounted for is Doug Flutie's rushing ability. He's healthy, his ankle is ready, and he needs to keep the ball in his possession, make the first downs, move the chains.
Okay, we're going to flip the depth chart now, and how does Calgary handle the BC offense? They've got to worry about a Flutie, too.
A record season for himself. Darren Flutie came in. I think you just got to get really physical. Defensive backs come up on the line of scrimmage, beat him up, not let him get off the line of scrimmage.
Well, Darren Flutie, a guy that's been compared to Brian Kelly. He's a great receiver. They have a core of good receivers, Ray Alexander as well. If you take the passing game away from Ken Austin, BC says they've still got a running game led by Corey Philpott.
Well, they certainly do. Corey Philpott's rushed over 1,400 yards this season. He carries the mail extremely well, but here again is the case. It goes right into what Calgary does best. Physical defense. Beat him up, hit him every time you have an opportunity to put him on the ground.
Yep, the guy that I think Calgary's most concerned about is Sean Millington.
Well, he really is. This is a guy that once, I think the Calgary defense really does respect what Sean Millington can do, but once you've eliminated those other two threats and you think that Sean Millington is the guy that's going to get the ball, I think Calgary can play pretty solid defense against them.
Last year, these two teams met in the Western semifinal. It was a defensive struggle, Calgary winning it 17-9. Scott?
Okay, Chris, Stampeders have not been beaten by BC in the playoffs since 1964. The West Final follows the decision in Winnipeg where the Bombers and CFLers are tied at 8. We'll send you back to Winnipeg when Final Sunday continues.
Welcome back to Winnipeg. The Bombers in Baltimore tied 8-8 live at the half. The winner goes to the Grey Cup in a league that's going to Graceland. CFL Commissioner Larry Smith on Thursday giving conditional approval to a new franchise next season in Memphis, Tennessee. Fred Smith, the president and CEO of Federal Express, heads a group that includes Pepper Rogers, the former head coach of the Memphis Showboats of the USFL.
And they snubbed us. They didn't even give us a vote. They didn't tell us the truth, and I'm tired of it, fellas and ladies. I say let's get on with our life and play some football. Let's have our own team. Let's have our own league, and let's go after it.
And Pepper Rogers joins me live here in Winnipeg. Pepper, sounds like the people of Memphis are pretty disappointed with the NFL and the treatment you got, and now you're coming to the CFL.
Well, they were disappointed a long time ago. I mean, this is just not today. They're pretty much... over that disappointment, we're fired up about the CFL, and it's time for us to play football down in Memphis and have some fun Canadian Football League style.
Well, the Canadian Football League people are pretty excited about having people like you and Fred Smith and the clout you might bring towards exposing the game in the United States. What can you do with that?
Well, I think that Baltimore's put it off to a good start, and I think Memphis is a real hotbed of football. We're down in South, right? We were right next to Mississippi and Arkansas, and of course, Great State, Tennessee. We have a lot of football down there, a lot of people who like the game, and we intend to make it a very successful venture and help the Canadian Football League and also make it fun in Memphis.
Baltimore is the only one of 4 American teams to really be successful this season. Have you used their blueprint, or will you use that blueprint for your franchise?
Well, you know, we've all looked at people who do well like Baltimore, and they've certainly done well. We also look at people who've done poorly to try and figure out why they did poorly. But I think the reason Baltimore's done well, it's a good city to put a franchise in. I think Memphis is a good city to put a franchise in. Fred Smith and myself have been at this for a long time. We think we can make it work.
Doesn't get this cold in Memphis, does it?
No! Just a little icy once in a while.
Stay warm. Pepper Rogers, part of the new franchise being awarded to Memphis, Tennessee. Now let's go up to the broadcast booth to Don and James for their thoughts on the first half of this game.
Thank you, Mark. And one of the reasons that Baltimore has been successful is hiring coaches with CFL experience and players with CFL experience. One of them was Carl Anthony, who scored the game's only touchdown on a fumble recovery.
Big play early by the Baltimore defense, as you'll see Anthony as he comes in. After Alfred Payton strips the ball from Keith Woodside, Anthony standing around the pile, picks it up, alert, returns it for the touchdown.
Handling the football has been difficult for the kickers and the holders. Bob Cameron had one block.
Alvin Walton got a free release inside by Ryan Carey. Big play special teams, once again, always a critical part of the CFL game. Great field position, Baltimore.
On a field goal attempt, John Conjemi was unable to handle the snap from center.
The inclement weather, being able to hold on to the ball was going to be very critical. The ball hit him right in the hands, and he couldn't put it down.
An alert play by Igwe-Bike to throw the ball. That was a first down field goal attempt. Then when it looked as though the Bombers might drive in for a touchdown, Matt Dunnigan mishandled the exchange from center.
Being overzealous, sometimes Matt Dunnigan tries to do too many things as an individual, and that time it was evident. He got the hands closed prior to the snap coming up. They had to settle for a field goal attempt and a tie at halftime.
The game is tied at 8, and Winnipeg with an edge in first downs, an edge in the passing game. Baltimore has run the football more successfully. The turnover for a touchdown, the key as far as Baltimore is concerned right now. With this game tied at 8, what do you look for in the second half?
I look for Baltimore has to take a few more gambles here in the second half. They're very conservative in the first half. Tracy Ham didn't take any chances, but now he has to air it out.
Winnipeg 8, Baltimore 8, 30 minutes away from deciding the Eastern representative for the Grey Cup. Mark?
And Don, the Bombers will have the win for the third quarter. Just 15 minutes of football. They must take advantage of that with the wind at their back. It's 8-8. We'll have the second half kickoff when we come back.
Welcome back to Winnipeg. The two quarterbacks have gone different routes so far in this football game. Matt Dunnigan moving his team through the air. Tracy Ham quite content to give the ball to the leading rusher in the CFL, the record setter Mike Pringle. Comparing their numbers in the first 30 minutes, Dunnigan completed 11 of 18 for 150 yards. Ham only tried to throw the ball 4 times. He completed 3 for 38 yards.
One of the things that Ham didn't really attempt to do, Don, when he had the wind at his back, was to try to go with that aerial attack. When he gets the ball in the fourth quarter, that's going to have to be a major concern of his, because you can bet Matt Dunnigan is going to put it up on every opportunity here in the third quarter.
I said at the start of the telecast that one of the determining factors may have been a coin toss. Baltimore won it. They opted to defer their choice until the second half, and they will have the wind at their back in the fourth quarter. Jackson had problems with that squib kick by Donald Igwe-Bike. He only returned it 8 yards. Winnipeg will scrimmage first and 10 from the 47.
Well, now with the wind in your back and only 29 minutes of football left in your season, you have to seize every opportunity that you have. Winnipeg knows that they're going to be in an uphill battle in the fourth quarter. So Matt Dunnigan, expect him to start out the third the way he finished the second.
Dunnigan looks for Wilcox. He can't hang on. Carl Anthony may have got a hand in there just at the last minute.
Great play by Carl Anthony coming in with the strip. Michael Brooks was the linebacker assigned to coverage. It was zone, too deep zone in the back end. Michael Brooks was released with Gerald Wilcox. Could not stay with him, but Carl Anthony made the play.
Second and 10 Winnipeg. The Bombers are at their own 47. Baltimore's secondary has been together since the first game of the season. Baltimore hasn't had many injuries this year, particularly defensively. Alfred Jackson is the man Dunnigan was looking for, and Irvin Smith came up and almost picked it up.
Well, you'll see Jackson lose his footing, Don, and one of the things that's going to occur here in Winnipeg, now that the sun has gone down, the field will start to harden up. Players their footing won't be as sure as it was in the first half. Jackson went down. On a normal day, Smith might still be running with that one.
40-year-old Bob Cameron, generally regarded as the best bad weather punter in the Canadian Football League.
No, he is.
No ifs, ands, or buts?
No doubt.
Low snap. Cameron still gets a good kick away. Canley on the return, and he runs into some traffic at the 26-yard line. A 46-yard punt, 11 yards on the run back. Okay. Let's go to the sidelines. Here's Mark.
Well, Don, on that last pass play in which Alfred Jackson went down, he slipped right on one of the numbers. Now, if you look at the field here, when they had to clear the snow off 2 days ago, the sweepers and the brushes took all of the lines and the numbers off. They had to repaint them yesterday, and you can see the paint hasn't really dried. It's just wet and stayed on the surface, and it's very slippery.
Well, some players have had problems, as you said, when they get into the area where those numbers are. And now
the crowd is getting involved. First and 10 Baltimore. The handoff to Pringle, and Pringle heading to his left is brought down by Tony Hill after a pickup of about 4 yards.
What Baltimore will hope to do here in the third quarter is to play Winnipeg even, not take any unnecessary chances, be able to hold on to the football, because we've seen a couple fumbles this afternoon. We have an injured player, Peter Toipalutu, the fullback. We now will see Pringle and Drummond in the game at the same time. Drummond last week rushed for over 100 yards in his first CFL start as a running back.
Tuipulotu, the number 2 receiver this year for Baltimore. Chris Armstrong led the way with 72 catches. Tuipulotu had 53 and scored 2 touchdowns. Drummond took over from Mike Pringle last week against Toronto, ran for 111 yards, caught passes for another 53 yards. But so far, it's been a ground game that Baltimore has relied upon, and going against the wind, moving the ball along the ground took a lot of valuable time off the clock. Only 3 receptions by Baltimore's receiving corps this afternoon. Wilson, Clark, and Pringle each have 1.
And you see that Mike Pringle caught the only ball out of the backfield as far as the running back. And Toipalutu was the leading receiver of the running backs on the team, but this team also led the CFL in yardage as far as running backs on receptions on the season, as well as in rushing. We'll get a look right here to the left of your screen as Toipalutu is trying to block, and he's rolled up on by the linebacker Randolph, and the defensive end Hill, and he went down. He's being assisted off the field. That's a very critical loss for Baltimore if he's gone for any length of time.
The BYU product only saw limited action as a runner this year with Baltimore. He only had 42 rushing yards, used primarily as a pass receiver. 2nd and 6 Baltimore. Drummond in the ball game as Tuipulotu's replacement. Again, Ham is having difficulties above the crowd noise in calling his signal. Drummond comes in motion across the formation. Dal Lyles was waiting on the corner. Ham throws to the sidelines, incomplete. The first time he's tried to go to Armstrong this afternoon. Bobby Evans was coming on a halfback blitz from the backside, hit Ham just as he threw.
Well, that's one of the things that Winnipeg must continue doing, is putting pressure on Ham, because Tracy Ham, if he can get comfortable, he can beat you. And right here, you'll see as Evans comes from that halfback blitz, Ham had Armstrong open late, but Evans got there earlier than what Ham wanted him to, and he had to throw the ball early, and it went high.
Even had Armstrong been able to make the catch, he would have come down with both feet out of bounds. Pretty good kick by Miller into the wind. Norris Thomas had a difficult time following the flight of the ball, and then upfield to make the tackle is Sheldon Canley, limiting the return to 5 yards. Winnipeg Stadium, where Baltimore and Winnipeg are deadlocked at 8 with 12:35 remaining in the third quarter. Winnipeg has the wind and the football. They are scrimmaging from their own 54-yard line. Peter Tuipulotu is injured on Baltimore's previous offensive series, is receiving treatment at the Baltimore bench. Good inside fake by Dunnigan. Dunnigan for Jackson. He can't hang on. Carl Anthony, who was flagged for pass interference in the first half, did an excellent job of coming over to knock the pass down.
Carl Anthony is being tested by Matt Dunnigan. Carl Anthony early in the year was tested by many teams, but he was able to hang in there. Now with Alfred Jackson, what they're trying to do is isolate him up top, bring the rest of the receivers down to the bottom of the field. Now he's going to be matched one-on-one with Jamie Holland. He's going to need some help.
This time Jackson lines up to the left. Dunnigan is forced out. Gravely is after him, and Dunnigan underthrows Jamie Holland on the far side of the field. And the reason he underthrew Jamie Holland is that Tracy Gravely was in pursuit.
Well, Matt Dunnigan early in the season would have been able to possibly elude a Tracy Gravely, but now, since coming back off of that knee injury, Matt Dunnigan is no longer 100%, and he wears that heavy brace on his right knee, and it limits his mobility, and that time Tracy Gravely was able to get to him.
Dunnigan has yet to complete a pass in the third quarter. Scott Cameron's third down punts. Mishandled in the end zone. The ball is loose. Lester Smith comes up with it, but it's a single point as Bobby Evans is there to make sure that Smith stayed down.
I don't know if they're going to give him the single point because he's going to say that he fielded it in the field of play, and they're possibly going to bring this one out to the 2 or 3 yard line, Don. When you wonder why the Baltimore players...
James, I think maybe Winnipeg is protesting that they should be given a safety touch, claiming that they took the ball back into the end zone, but I don't think at any time did a Baltimore player have control.
Never had control, but you wonder why they tried to handle the ball running backwards inside the 5 yard line. With the no yards rule in the CFL, go back, gather yourself, field the ball, but Lester Smith did a great job in covering the ball after Carl Anthony had mishandled it.
So Winnipeg has the lead for the first time in this Eastern Final. Bob Cameron's punt going into the end zone with 11:47 remaining. That was a 56-yard single by Cameron. Drummond remains in place of Tui Pelotu. Will try and throw, and first down. He's in trouble. Still gets it away. Wide open is Washington. And Washington made the catch at the Winnipeg 50 and went out of bounds at the 48.
You know, you have to question if Winnipeg doesn't score any points here in the third quarter, what chances do they have? But Tracy Ham has been masterful in buying himself time for the most part this season. Once again, vintage Tracy Ham with the footwork, finding Wilson is on a deep crossing route and able to pick up the first down inside Winnipeg territory.
First and 10 Baltimore. They're at the Winnipeg 48. Again, Ham is having problems calling out his signals. And this is going to cause him some problems. A time count violation charged against Baltimore.
Time count violation. Baltimore number 8. Still first down.
One of the big concerns of Baltimore, now they're going to have to be more prudent with their hand signals. They're going to have to relay messages out by carrier this way.
First and 15 now from the Winnipeg 53. Hand off to Pringle, and Pringle is hit and driven back. Stan Mikowicz made the initial contact, got help from Paul Randolph as Pringle managed about 1 yard.
Well, Baltimore trying to run the trap once again. As Pringle took the ball deep in the eye, they tried to fold block. You saw Subas come around, but Mikkel was able to get across before Fort could get the seal block on him. Great play by the veteran nose guard.
Ham on second down, looks for Drummond. He makes the catch, but down he goes at the 46. Reggie Givens came over to make sure he made contact with Drummond. Drummond attempted to get up and carry on, but the play had been ruled dead. That comes with 10:10 remaining in the third quarter.
Well, Tracy Ham stepping up in the pocket, buying that extra time. Drummond crossing as a safety valve, but not able to maintain his feeding. Those icy spots here on the turf in Winnipeg are starting to take their toll on the players, and they have to be more sure about their plan.
Miller's last punt actually wasn't all that bad into the wind. It traveled 31 yards. This is another good kick into the wind. Thomas waits for it. And there's nowhere to go. Good special teams play by Baltimore this afternoon. A 29-yard kick 7 yards in the return. Mark?
Well, Don, bad news for fullback Peter Tuipulotu here on the Baltimore bench. He has sprained medial collateral ligaments in his right knee. He is done for the game. Remember, Tuipulotu was named an Eastern CFL All-Star, mainly for the role he played in blocking for Mike Pringle in his record-setting 1,972 yards this season. We'll see how that affects the ground game for Baltimore as this game progresses. Don?
Yes, and we saw Jim Sparrows, the owner of the Baltimore CFLers, come over to talk with Tuipulotu. Dunnigan looks for Alfred. He can't grab it. And you know, it looked as though the wind may have affected the flight of that ball. As Alfred was reaching up, it almost seemed as though that ball took off a little.
Well, it did, and the wind is behind the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and Matt Dunnigan got the nose up on that ball, and it allowed it to carry, and it was just off of the fingertips of Gerald Alfred. A very close play. Could have been a great one for Winnipeg.
9:29 with the clock running in the third quarter. Winnipeg leading Baltimore 9-8. Baltimore led 8-0 before Winnipeg finally got on the board in the second quarter. 2 field goals and a safety touch. A 56-yard Bob Cameron single has moved Winnipeg in front. Dunnigan's in big trouble, and down he goes. Baltimore in second down, coming with the pressure, and Alfred Payton is the man who got to the Winnipeg quarterback.
Alfred Payton, we spoke about him in our opening, how he was relentless in applying pressure to Matt Dunnigan. Turning the corner on Chris Walby, just a straight-out speed rush. Chris can't run with him. Tracking down Matt Dunnigan, the big sack for the Baltimore defense.
And Bob Cameron is going to be punting out of his own end zone with 9:04 remaining in the third quarter. Smith with problems handling the ball. It's loose, and Baltimore appears to have recovered. Smith and Watson, or Anthony, got confused in who was going to field it, and Baltimore is fortunate that they were able to get it back.
Welcome back to Winnipeg. Winnipeg leading Baltimore 9-8 with 8:47 to go in the third quarter. We're going to look at Carl Anthony right here, who has twice in the last 2 punts made poor decisions. Lester Smith led the CFL in punt return average. He came across, got in Lester Smith's way, and Baltimore was very fortunate to recover that punt.
Irvin Smith is the man who came over to finally scoop it up after Bobby Evans just missed it. First and 10 Baltimore. Behind Walter Wilson, it will be second and 10. Are you surprised at all, James, the way Winnipeg has taken Chris Armstrong out of the ball game?
Oh, not really surprised, because they've taken Tracy Ham's throwing ability out of the game. When you have 2 6'7" defensive ends, Tony Hill and Kelly Rush, you limit the passing lane that the quarterback Tracy Ham has to throw in. He has to redirect all of his throws, and that is what has limited Chris Armstrong, because the hot routes that he runs so effectively are no longer there.
On second down, Ham's in trouble. Down he goes. Tony Hill made the tackle, and Kelly Rush came over to help out.
Deja vu, you mentioned the big guys, and they come up and make the big play. What happened was they brought the linebackers from the outside, as you'll see Rush and Hill on the corners. Tracy Ham will be flushed back up in the pocket. They fold back as Davidson gets a good push, and the 2 big cats close on him for the play defensively for Winnipeg.
8:05 remaining in the third quarter. Winnipeg leading by a score of 9-8. We talked at the start of the game how Kelly Rush, inserted into a defensive end position, replacing Lloyd Lewis, would have to come up with a big game, and he has. Here's the pressure up the middle, and contact on the kicker, Josh Miller, by Norris Thomas as Boyko fields it. Norris Thomas timed his run just perfectly, came through, but didn't get to Miller in time, and contacting the kicker will give Baltimore a first down.
And Norris Thomas is still trying to figure out how he missed blocking that punt, but he did not.
Contacting the kicker, Winnipeg number 27.
He did not lay out on it, and it was a great shot, a great call by the Winnipeg coaching staff. He had a clean run right up the middle, but with the ball coming off of the side of Miller's foot, went right to the right of Norris Thomas' body. Good job by Josh Miller getting that one away, but a great effort by Norris Thomas.
And once he had committed himself, contact with the kicker was unavoidable. 7:32 remaining in the third quarter. 3 receivers wide to the left. The handoff goes to Pringle. He's forced back inside. Darrell Sampson from his halfback position came up to force the play back to the inside, where Sampson had some help in 3 Winnipeg defenders coming over to make the tackle.
Well, the treading for Mike Pringle hasn't been as good today as it was the last time these two teams met, when he broke the CFL single-season rushing mark of Willie Burton that had stood for 19 years. They figured him out. He came off the pull groin. He wasn't 100% healthy coming into the game, and it's evident in his running style this afternoon.
2nd and 8. Wilson is nailed immediately by Paul Randolph. Randolph had an outstanding semifinal game against Ottawa, and he is continuing against Baltimore.
Well, Paul Randolph has just been a gangbuster the past 2 games. He has risen to the occasion as you see the fans here in Winnipeg enjoying what their defense has been able to do. But Paul Randolph knows the meaning of this football game. He came out with a purpose, and he's been leading the way defensively for the Bombers this afternoon. You'll see him right here close on Wilson and just levels him right in his track. Baltimore forced the punt once again.
Norris Thomas again. This time Miller gets it away cleanly, but this is a high kick that hangs up in the wind, and this will draw a no yards flag. Bobby Evans fielded it, a 16-yard punt by Josh Miller with 6:19 remaining in the third quarter. For 2 teams that put a lot of points on the board during regular season play, Winnipeg and Baltimore have not been able to do the same in this Eastern Final. There's the man who was named the outstanding offensive player in the offensive lineman in the East this year, Shar Perdonis of Baltimore. Right now he's on the bench as the Baltimore defense attempts to stop Matt Dunnigan and Gerald Wilcox. And Wilcox comes down at the 40-yard line in front of Ken Watson.
Going to be very important now, Don. This is probably Baltimore to make that Winnipeg's most critical drive of the game, as we'll get a look at that last reception by Wilcox. Matt Dunnigan needs to get his team into the end zone. You don't have much time left with the wind at your back.
Those 6- and 12-yard outs for Gerald Wilcox have been bread and butter for Winnipeg this year. There's the deep throw for Holland. He can't catch up with it. He made a desperate dive in the end zone. There's a penalty flag as well on the far side of the field. Carl Anthony was defending against Holland.
It's in that area you'll normally get an offsides, and it's going to go against Baltimore. It's going to keep the drive alive. Winnipeg will get a reprieve on life right here. But once again, Matt Dunnigan got an illegal contact. Number 30. Carl Anthony, once again, he's been at the end of many mishaps for Baltimore. 2 mishandled punts, 2 pass interference calls. He's been challenged, and he hasn't been able to answer the call this afternoon.
He also scooped up a fumble and scored the game's only touchdown.
Yeah, okay, he's got a reprieve.
1st and 10, Winnipeg from the 30. Dunnigan in trouble, and Dunnigan was simply throwing that away as Tracy Gravely was blitzing.
Well, Tracy Gravely was unaccounted for. If you recall, early in the first half, Don, Tracy Gravely came through in a similar situation when they had Winnipeg pinned back down. They recognized that same situation coming up. As Gravely came late, the lane opened up. Dunnigan saw him and was able to save the sack by getting rid of the ball.
Gravely plays that Sam linebacker position. Baltimore will give you a lot of different looks, moving people around, trying to confuse your blocking schemes. They will sometimes line both Brigance and Payton on the same side. Pass intended for Jackson. He had Irvin Smith all over him. .503 is the time remaining in the third quarter.
Well, these two have been battling the entire second half here. And once again, Matt Dunnigan wanting to go back on Alfred Jackson.
Forward pass interference. Baltimore number 21. First down.
Jackson stands 6'3", Irvin Smith stands 5'10". As you see Irvin Smith trying to fight through Alfred Jackson, and the official right on top, hitting him with the flag. Winnipeg first down at the 20.
Winnipeg leads 9-8. First and 10 from the 20. The fake to Woodside. Dunnigan looks to the end zone. He hit the crossbar. He had Wilcox open, and he hit the crossbar.
You talk about opportunities constantly arising for a team. When you look at Winnipeg, they've gotten 2 interference calls that have kept first downs, and now the crossbar steps up as that 13th defender that's unaccounted for at the start of the game. A perfect strike right down the middle. Wilcox has 2 strides, as you'll see him right there. Watson chasing. Wilcox had him beat. He just couldn't get the ball to him.
Dunnigan has only been able to complete 1 pass in this second half. An injured Baltimore player, Gerald Bayless, a player we referred to earlier, is playing with an injury for a good portion of the season, and he will have to go out for at least 3 plays.
Well, he's had that calf problem, Don. It flared up last week versus Toronto, and now it seems that possibly the same injury is bothering him right now, as we're seeing he's limping off the field here. But Winnipeg, I mean, has had plenty of opportunities here in the third quarter with 4:46 remaining. They're not going to get many more, and Baltimore will have the wind at their back for the fourth quarter. Winnipeg needs to get a touchdown.
With Bayless out, Scott Miller comes in. Winnipeg 2nd and 10 from the 20. Jackson lines up to the left. Jamie Holland is wide right. Dunnigan looks to his right. Throws into the end zone for Wilcox, incomplete. On successive plays, Dunnigan has looked for the man who led the team in receptions, Gerald Wilcox, but has been unable to get the ball to him.
Well, Gerald Wilcox has had a field day working against Watson, and Watson has just not been able to run with him, but Matt Dunnigan and neither has been able to get the ball to Wilcox when he's been working on that side of the field here in the third quarter.
4:35 remaining. Troy Westwood will attempt a field goal of 27 yards. It's good. And the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have moved into a 4-point lead. 6 field goals last week against Ottawa. He also missed one of 49 yards. And 3 field goals so far today against Baltimore.
He's been the life of the Winnipeg offense for the past 2 weeks. They've had the ride on the shoulders of Troy Westwood. The smallest man on the team has been the biggest player for the Bombers over the past 2 weeks. Now, once again, they have to call upon their defense to stop Baltimore so that they can at least get decent field position for one more go at it here in the third quarter.
Winnipeg's defense has been maligned during much of the season, but they have really played well today. Pringle, the ball carrier, and Kelly Rush makes the tackle and brings him down. Kelly Rush is a bit of a free spirit. He's been fined a number of times this season, showing up late for meetings, late for practices, but he's been on time most of the afternoon.
Well, probably if he hadn't got fined, he'd have had enough money to buy an alarm clock or something. But Kelly Rush and Tony Hill, we spoke about them in the opening, that they were going to have a big day, and they've been answering the call from those defensive end positions.
2nd and 7, Baltimore. Ham escapes the initial pressure, and he'll be very close to a first down as he gets up to the 45-yard line. That's something that Tracy Ham in his first few years with Edmonton did so well, run with the football. Back then, many people were often critical of the number of times Ham would run, but as assistant coach Steve Barato was explaining to us yesterday, in his first few years in the league, he didn't read defenses as well as he did now, so he was running many times out of desperation, but with his athletic ability, he can turn a broken play into a big game.
Well, sometimes when they speak about young quarterbacks not reading defenses, sometimes it's a little misinterpretation even in that. They're a little more anxious to make things happen. They're not patient enough to sit back when they're young and let the things develop. But Tracy Ham has really gotten to that point, and now he's a polished quarterback. Let's go down to Mark.
Darrell Bayless suffered a burner, a pinched nerve in his neck on that last defensive series. It's the same problem he came into the game with, but he can play with pain, he says, and he's going to stay in, Don.
Well, he has played with pain throughout most of the season, and I'm sure we'll see Darrell Bayless back. 1st and 10 Baltimore from, or I should say 3rd and inches Baltimore from the 45, and now it's 1st and 10 as Tracy Ham follows the surge and picks up the first down.
It was a prelude of what you knew was going to come, Donald.
3rd and inches is almost a given in the CFL, although there have been times when defenders have stopped it.
Even in this game.
Even in this game. A couple of times in this game, one each way. 2:37 remaining in the 3rd quarter. Got the play away just in time. He gives to Pringle, and Pringle crosses the 50 for a gain of 6 yards.
To go back to that story on Tracy Ham, as you alluded to, he got the ball off just in time. That's part of the maturing process of a Tracy Ham, knowing how to utilize every second on the play clock to milk it down as far as he can, to take as much time off of the game clock, because he knows the critical part of the game is coming up, the 4th quarter, and he'll have the wind at his back working against this Winnipeg defense.
2nd and 3, Baltimore. Pringle, the ball carrier. He isn't going to get a first down. He stopped short of the midfield strike.
Kelly Rushdon has really stepped up to bat here in the 3rd quarter. He has made 3 outstanding defensive plays in this quarter alone. He was inserted in at that right defensive end position where Lloyd Lewis normally handles, and Lloyd could not play this game, but Kelly has stepped in, and they haven't missed a beat. He's had an outstanding afternoon.
How difficult is it for someone accustomed to playing the left side moving over to the right?
People would think that it's very easy to do that, but your footing changes. You're accustomed to seeing things coming from different angles, but your foot placement and your hand placement, so you have to retool your entire body to adjust to that other side of the ball.
1:30 remaining in the 3rd quarter. Miller for the 3rd down punt. That's Boyko Fields at the 32, and he's got nowhere to go. He's surrounded at the 36. A 23-yard punt that time by Josh Miller. Versatility has been the key for Alan Boyko's career in the Canadian Football League. A punt returner, a kickoff returner. He's played defensive back. He's played wide out, and he's played slot back. Last week against Ottawa, he saw a fair bit of action as a slot back following the injury to Tim Daniel. Today, his work has been restricted to special teams play.
Well, he's a sure-handed guy that Coach Cal Murphy loves, because he knows when Boyko's back, he's not going to mishandle the ball.
Alpin is the man Dunnigan is looking for. He was underthrown. It will be 2nd and 10 Winnipeg with 1:04 remaining in the 3rd quarter.
One of the things with Matt Dunnigan, Don, when he comes out now, he is just not as comfortable, and you can see it in his movement with that knee brace on his right knee. He just doesn't get that push and drive. You'll see right here as he plants, he tries to get up on that toe, and that ball is just knocked down. He's throwing it in. The wind is moving sideways here at Winnipeg Stadium.
Safety Brooks was coming on a blitz, and the toss went the other direction to Woodside, and Woodside gets about 6 yards. He hasn't carried the football since early in the 1st quarter.
Well, I think after that fumble that Matt may have lost some confidence in him, and that's one of the things you don't want to do. They needed to be able to establish a run game with only 37 seconds to go here in the 3rd quarter, and they're going to have the wind at their face. That's something that they're going to have to depend upon in the 4th quarter.
Woodside had played only 2 regular season games the final game of the year against Toronto and earlier in the year against Calgary. What a beautiful kick by Bob Cameron. It chases Smith all the way back to the 15, and down he goes at the 20. A 53-yard kick by Cameron, 6 yards on the return by Lester Smith. And I'm sure over on the Baltimore bench, Don Matthews spoke to his punt return unit, particularly Carl Anthony, and said, make sure you catch the football. Don't get confused into who's going to field it.
Well, I think he spoke to him in a little more detail than that, because he moved him out on the wing. He got him completely away from the football, and he dropped Sheldon Canley back along with Lester Smith, a more sure-handed guy. Defensive backs are not known for great hands. Otherwise, they may be receivers.
Winnipeg leads. This could be the final play of the third quarter, and then Baltimore will have the wind heading home. Pringle trying to follow the blocking of Perdonis, but Greg Clark got through to make a tackle. And that is the final play of the third quarter. 15 minutes remaining in this Eastern Final at Winnipeg Stadium, with the Blue Bombers leading Baltimore by 4.
Welcome back to windy Winnipeg, where Baltimore and the Bombers are battling the elements as much as they are each other. It's 12-8, Bombers with 15 minutes of football to go. Stay with us. The Western Final, the Stampeders and Lions coming right up after this football game. It is a little-known fact that 3 weeks ago, Matt Dunnigan, who's taking a pounding in this football game, took a real pounding at Baltimore. He had his hip knocked out of alignment with his back and had to have chiropractor work for 5 straight days to get it straightened out, Don.
Now Tracy Ham looks for Washington over the middle, incomplete. Baltimore now 3 of 18 on second down conversion.
Well, this Winnipeg defense, Don, has played outstanding this afternoon. They've limited Baltimore's success to only 8 points, and 7 of those points came by the Baltimore defense. So you have to take your hat off to the game plan of the Winnipeg defensive coaching staff and the players for the execution. We talked about the discipline in Oakland. They've displayed it this afternoon.
Sir Josh Miller is much relieved to get the wind at his back for this third down kick. Burris takes it up to 35. Burris gets a block and springs to the outside and brings it up to the 52 of Baltimore. A 55-yard kick and a 24-yard run back by Ken Burris. Baltimore has managed just 8 points this year against a defensive unit that established a club record of 572 points against 31.7 per game average.
So, Don, this quarter is very critical for Matt Dunnigan, and he didn't have much success in the third quarter, and it looked to see as his right leg may be bothering. He's just not getting that push, and you see the limp after releasing the ball. He just doesn't have the ability with that leg and that brace to operate at 100%.
Jackson goes wide to the left. Jamie Holland lines up right. Handoff goes to Woodside, and Woodside inside is decked by the linebacker Goodwin after Alfred Payton made the initial contact.
Well, that's one of the few carries that Woodside has seen all afternoon. And this is where they have to rely a lot on the running game, and Matt Dunnigan now is forced with a 2nd and 8 situation. You know that Baltimore loves to blitz in this position on the field.
Dunnigan finds a receiver open, and Wilcox has a first down.
Ken Watson hasn't had a clue all afternoon versus Gerald Wilcox. You get him coming right into your living room. Gerald Wilcox sets down. Watson can't close the gap. Wilcox knew where the first down sticks were. Keeps the drive alive.
When they met at Winnipeg Stadium back in July, Wilcox caught 11 passes for 146 yards against Baltimore. Hand off to Woodside, and an excellent move by Matt Goodwin, the Rookie of the Year nominee in the East, to make the stop.
He's just had an outstanding first year in the CFL, Don. He has done everything that this coaching staff has asked of him. He came in originally as a defensive back. He couldn't crack that lineup, but he was too good of an athlete for the coaching staff to let go. His twin brother also is on the team, is on the reserve right now as another linebacker. He took over that outside linebacker spot about 4 weeks into the season, and he has filled those shoes very well.
That was what Don Matthews said he had a problem with at the start of the year, finding the right position for a number of players, and one of them, as you said, was Matt Goodwin. He came in basically as a cornerback and wound up playing as an undersized linebacker.
But only undersized in stature, Don, because heart and ability, he is 100% linebacker. He has the tenacity. He is all over the field. He makes the plays. He's been relentless. And he also led the team this season with 4 blocked punts. In 2 of those, he returned for touchdowns.
Actually, I think he took 3 in for touchdowns on blocked punts. And I'm not sure what the reason for the delay is right now.
The officials are cold. They're trying to warm up.
Apparently, the 20-second clock is causing them problems, and I see why. It's at 45 seconds.
Wrong type of league. That's the other league. This is a little more faster pace up here.
Winnipeg leads. 2nd and 11 for the Bombers. They are at the Baltimore 40-yard line. Since the opening quarter against Ottawa, Winnipeg has not put the ball in the end zone. Dunnigan gets away from trouble, trying to run for a first down, but he stopped short. Alvin Walton came up to cut it off, and then Matt Goodwin came over to finish the job.
Matt Dunnigan taking it upon himself, trying to get down and pick up all the yardage that he can. It's going to be a very long field goal attempt for Troy Westwood. We get a good shot right here in the middle of your screen. Gerald Bayless with a hand up in his face being pulled down. Normally should be hit with a face mask penalty right there. But Matt Dunnigan with a great effort to get the ball down to the 32-yard line for a 39-yard attempt for Troy Westwood.
Boy, this is going to be a tough one for Westwood. 39 yards into the wind. Wow, I'm not sure what they were attempting there, but whatever it was, it misfired with 11:51 remaining in the game. Players on the Winnipeg Football Club thought they were running a fake, but there was some miscommunication, it appears.
Westwood's here. Carl Anthony's here. He recognized when Westwood was going to go out in the flat, picked up Westwood, made the stop on the play, and Cameron was dead in the water, had nowhere to go.
But Cameron stayed down on one knee for so long, pinning the ball, it almost appeared as though someone wasn't sure that a fake had been called. Ham attempted to dump it off, and Paul Randolph got a hand in front of the throw. It will be 2nd and 10 Baltimore.
Defensively, Baltimore make that Winnipeg has been able to get up in Tracy Ham's face. They've limited the throwing lanes that he has inside by inserting the 2 big defensive ends. That time it allowed Paul Randolph to come off the corner with the pressure and get the knockdown.
The word we get from the sidelines is that Cameron, a quarterback at Acadia in his college days, was not informed when he went on the field that it was a fake. Over the middle for Washington, and Washington will have a first down, taking it up to the 54.
Joe Washington has been the recipient on a couple critical Tracy Ham passes. You recall late in the 3rd quarter where he was able to keep a drive alive. Once again, a deep crossing route at the time. The soft spot of the zone. The linebackers have vacated. You can see Clark dropping out. Couldn't close prior to Washington picking up the first down.
Movement at the line of scrimmage. Tracy Ham's pass knocked down by Kelly Rush. But there appeared to be movement on the far side from Del Lyles.
And once again, Don, it cannot be emphasized enough. The height of the Winnipeg defensive linemen and Tracy Ham not being able to get the ball over them.
Offside. Winnipeg number 56. Repeat first down.
First and 5 now with Del Lyles offside on the previous play. 11:07 remaining with Baltimore trailing by 4 points. Intended for Chris Armstrong. It will be second and 5.
Tracy Ham just hasn't seemed that comfortable in trying to deliver passes this afternoon. Even with the wind at his back, the footing is bad for him as Armstrong is trying to find that open spot in the Winnipeg secondary, and Ham just cannot get the ball to him.
Ham has completed just 7 of 13 attempts for 83 yards. Flag, and on the far side of the field, Robert Clark is going to be called for being offside. Clark had clearly moved across the line of scrimmage prior to the ball being snapped.
Procedure, Baltimore number 86. Score second.
Puts Don Matthews' team in a second and 10 situation back at their own 54-yard line. 10:41 remaining here at Winnipeg Stadium. 12-8. The Blue Bombers lead Baltimore. Washington again, and he's going to be, it would appear, about a yard short of a first down. It will depend on the spot.
Very critical spot, Don. Even with the wind at your back, it's a very tricky wind. It could be well beyond Ibuike's field goal range. So does Don Matthews gamble here early in the fourth quarter with 10:16 to go and go after the first down?
Washington has been the key man in the passing game for Baltimore. 3 catches for 47 yards. About a yard shy of a first down. I don't think there's much doubt that Baltimore is going to go after it on third down.
I think by going after this serves notice that we came to play from Baltimore. Is not that we didn't come in here to settle for a loss. You have to take every opportunity that you have in a game of this magnitude to find a way to win.
To Pringle, and Pringle is going to get the first down. Pringle with a couple of strides and then using his power, that burst as he hits the line of scrimmage, to drive forward and cross the Winnipeg 45-yard line.
Don, this is the point of the game that offensive linemen love when it's very critical and you need to pick up a yard, as Baltimore has done all year long. They rely on those big horses up front. Look at John Earl, and Neil Fort on that right side, and watch Mike Pringle with the leg drive as he lowers his shoulder, turns at an angle so no one can get a clean shot on him as he goes through that seam and picks up the first down.
Mark Borelli also coming in that short yardage play to help in the blocking. Pass over the middle, incomplete, intended for Armstrong. Armstrong this year had more yards than in his previous stints in the CFL with Edmonton and Ottawa.
Right now, you'll see Armstrong. He's looking back into a glaring wind at this point in the afternoon in Winnipeg. The sun is setting at that angle, and he's looking right back into it, but a very catchable ball that quarterback Tracy Ham had thrown to him.
In '93, Armstrong spent 4 weeks in Winnipeg on the Blue Bomber practice roster. Tracy Ham with time on second down. This time he delivers the pass to Armstrong, and he makes the catch for a first down at the 25.
Well, when you got a money player on the field, which Chris Armstrong has been for Baltimore all year long, you want to go back to it. That's the confidence that Tracy Ham have with the Chris Armstrong. And at the start of the season, Chris Armstrong was not even the starting slot for Baltimore. B.K. Williams went down with an Achilles injury in the warm-up in the initial game of the season in Toronto. Armstrong was inserted into the lineup, and it's been one of the best moves for this team all year long.
First and 10 Baltimore from the Winnipeg 25. The give is to Pringle. Pringle with a hole, and he's caught by Clark, but not before he gets inside the 20-yard line. Del Lyles was there as well.
Right now, this is where the running game is starting to pay dividends for Baltimore. They're controlling the clock. They're down in that red zone. Now they have to find a way to punch it into the end zone because Winnipeg's offense for 6 quarters now has not scored a touchdown. They've had to rely solely on the scoring ability of Troy Westwood.
And Winnipeg, of course, had the problems in the second quarter when they had scoring opportunities. They were unable to push it in. Tracy Ham will have to hurry. And he is not going to get it off. Don Matthews expressed concern.
Timeout violation. Baltimore number 8. Still second down.
Matthews expressed concern earlier in the week about crowd noise at Winnipeg Stadium. When that was printed in the newspapers here, that just encouraged the fans to be even louder, I'm sure.
I think they went out somewhere and found a busload of rowdies and brought them in.
Second and 9. Forced to pull it down. Now he throws. Nobody in the end zone awaiting the pass. And it will be 3rd and 9 Baltimore. And Donald Igwe-Bike will come into the game to try to narrow the deficit to a single point.
You have to admire the way that Winnipeg has played defensively, Don. They've been able to answer all the challenges of this Baltimore offense with the wind in their back. In the third quarter, they were able to keep Baltimore in check. They've been able to hold the running game well under that 156-yard average that they had for the season. Mike Pringle has just not been able to get on track. Now they once again must settle for a field goal attempt.
Again, Baltimore does not have a full complement of players out there for this field goal attempt. They're short one man, and they'll have to take a time count penalty. Tui Pelotu, who normally is on the field goal unit, tried to limp onto the field, but he is called back, and Drummond comes out, but the 20 seconds had expired.
Well, Drummond is his replacement in the game and also on special teams.
Timeout violation. Baltimore number 15. Still 3rd down.
That's where the discipline factor comes into the game that we spoke about. Players have to account for themselves, and the specialty team is such a big part of the game in the CFL. You can't lose track of where you are at any time in the game.
John Kangemi, the backup quarterback, and Holder recognized the problem early. Now he pins it at the 36. The kick is up, and it's good. And with 7:12 remaining, it's now Winnipeg 12, Baltimore 11.
Away the lawn furniture. Now as you brace yourself for the holiday season, another annual event creeps up. The Great... But only one place you can be. The Grey Cup on CBC, November 27th.
I'm sure one of the happiest people in the place when his captains won the coin toss to start this game was Baltimore coach Don Matthews. He deferred the choice until the second half, and his choice was to have the wind in the fourth quarter, and that may pay dividends before this afternoon is out. Dunnigan forced to pull it down. Dunnigan running to the sidelines, and down he goes as Charles Anthony closed on him very quickly, and so did O.J. Brigance.
Well, Matt Dunnigan right now feels that the burden is on his shoulders to get something going offensively. Couldn't find a receiver, hoping that he has at least 8 minutes left in those legs of his, and that time did what he could to pick up 4 yards on first down.
James, does this game remind you a little of that 1984 Eastern Final, Toronto-Hamilton?
Wait a minute, Don. My heart's not what it used to be.
You played in that game. It went into overtime. 14-13 was the score. Dunnigan's pass, a wobbly pass, deflected by Matt Goodwin.
Matt Goodwin has been a world of a player all afternoon, Don, and we spoke about him earlier, and he keeps living up to those accolades that he's received all year. The Eastern Outstanding Rookie nominee. He was also the team's defensive nominee for Outstanding Player. He has just delivered for this Baltimore team this season, the rookie out of Iowa State.
At one time, he was on the Winnipeg Blue Bomber negotiation list. Smith lets it bounce. He almost had some problems in trying to pick it up, and Kevin Robson was right there. A 30-yard kick. No chance for a return with 5:44 remaining.
Welcome back. Immediately following this Eastern Final, we will go directly to Calgary for the Western Final. The Stampeders and the BC Lions to see who represents the West in the 1994 Grey Cup. And here in Winnipeg, the Bombers lead by only 1 point. They're going into the wind, and these football fans are really injecting themselves into the game. The 13th man, if you will. Not only their noise, but they have been throwing snowballs at the Baltimore bench despite warnings over the PA that fans will be charged if they do that, Don.
These fans have been very vocal from the outset. Now, Tracy Ham is flushed out of the pocket. Tracy Ham throws upfield, and Mike Pringle is on the receiving end of the throw up near the 50-yard line.
Don spoke earlier about the maturity of Tracy Ham early in his career, where he was always willing to run with it when he couldn't recognize initially what was there defensively. That time, he bought all the time that he could. Mike Pringle was the third receiver in that scheme on the right side. As he came out, the last safety valve that Tracy Ham had made the reception.
2nd and 4, Baltimore. And throws and completes the pass for Armstrong, and a first down at the Winnipeg 51. Greg Clark, from his linebacking position, was chasing Tracy Ham, but didn't get there in time.
Tracy feels that Chris Armstrong is money in the bank. Working against Sampson, who he's had problems covering him all year long. That time, Armstrong fighting, comes back at the last moment with a diving reception. Sharp Pordanis, Eastern nominee of Outstanding Offensive Lineman in the CFL in his rookie season, handling Kelly Rush, who's had an outstanding afternoon.
4 receivers this time. Come out to the left. Ham rolls that way, and Ham throws to the sidelines for Robert Clark. No catch. No catch. The official right there ruled that the ball bounced. The line judge called it.
Well, Kelly Rush was applying the pressure to Tracy Ham. Look in the backfield as it was going to be a running play initially. As Ham turned, he didn't see Mike Pringle. Got to the outside. Clark showed. He tried to get the ball to him, but it bounced short of his receiver.
4:03, the time remaining at Winnipeg Stadium. 12-11, Winnipeg leads Baltimore.
Biggest play of the game coming up right here, Don, for Baltimore. They desperately need a first down to get in field goal range.
2nd down conversions have been a problem for Baltimore. Here's Tracy Ham in the option. He won't get a first down. Tony Hill made the initial contact on Tracy Ham. And with the wind at his back, with this view within the field goal range of Donald Igwe-Bike.
He's coming in. This would be a 55, 54-yard attempt. Tracy Ham in college was a veer option quarterback. Only quarterback in NCAA history at the time to pass for over 5,000 yards and run for over 2,000 yards in his career. Tried to run that play on 2nd and long. Didn't get there. But Igwe-Bike, a very accurate field goal kicker, Don. And with the wind behind his back, this is very close.
His longest of the year was a 50-yarder. A 54-yard attempt to give Baltimore the lead. The kick is up. It's good. Baltimore has moved in front by 2 points. 14-12. They lead with 3:20 remaining.
And in 84, if we'd have had a kicker like that.
But Hamilton beat Toronto in overtime, 14-13 in that 1984 game. A 54-yard field goal by Donald Igwebike has given Baltimore the lead.
You can see the jubilant.
Pass to the sidelines for Gerald Alphen, and Alphen takes it out of bounds with a first down at the 48. 3:03 is the time remaining. 14-12. Baltimore leads Winnipeg. We'll be back after this. Back to Winnipeg Stadium, and we now say hello to those viewers on ESPN2 who have joined us for the final 3 minutes and 3 seconds of this Eastern Final. On a 54-yard field goal by Donald Igwebike, Baltimore has moved into a 14-12 lead. Winnipeg, first and 10. The Bombers are at their own 48, going against a very strong south wind that has been blowing up to 45 clicks per hour. There's the toss to Woodside. Woodside gets to the outside, and then his route is cut off by Matt Goodwin.
Right now, Don, you know, the war is going to be in the trenches. They're going to have to assert themselves. Winnipeg offensive line, they got to buy Matt Dunnigan the time if they're going to be able to pull this one out.
For those just joining us, let's recap. Baltimore led 8-0 in the first quarter. Carl Anthony recovering a fumble, taking it in 14 yards for the major score. Winnipeg with 2 field goals and a safety touch to tie it at the half. Winnipeg with a single and a field goal to move ahead in the third quarter, and then in the fourth, 2 field goals by Donald Igwebike, moving Baltimore into a 2-point lead. Same play with Keith Woodside. The toss takes the ball to the 50-yard line. Gerald Bayless made the tackle. 2:41 remaining.
You see the intensity on the sideline. Tony Hill, in the biggest game of his professional career, concerned. Will his offense be able to march down? The offensive line doing the job on the last 2 runs, getting off up front. The 2 rookie guards, along with the veteran offensive tackles and center Dave Vonkonis, asserting themselves.
To Wilcox. Wilcox chased by Anthony, but he gets, or by Watson, but he gets the first down.
When you speak about a money man, Gerald Wilcox, a la Chris Armstrong on the other side of the ball, Ken Watson cannot play man for man, and he has had a field day against Watson that time, picking up the first down, and they're creeping closer and closer into Troy Westwood's field goal range.
5 receptions for 39 yards for Gerald Wilcox. First and 10. Dunnigan throws, intended for Wilcox again, but it falls short. 1:56 remaining. On second and long, that's where Baltimore has a preference for blitzing, and they may just try and go after Matt Dunnigan on second and 10 from the 39.
Don, this is a down right here for all the marbles. This is the biggest play of the season for both of these teams coming up, because Baltimore, if they can stop them here, then Winnipeg will be forced to go for it on third down because they're not within Troy Westwood's field goal range.
Dunnigan is going to go down. The initial pressure came from the outside with Matt Goodwin getting a hand on Matt Dunnigan, and then O.J. Brigance came in to help finish the job.
When you talk about a meeting of the linebackers, Tracy Gravely, O.J. Brigance, and Matt Goodwin, watch right here as the pocket collapses around Matt Dunnigan, but the key was the push up the middle by Robert Pressberry, not allowing Matt Dunnigan an escape route, and the linebackers finished the job. Just like you draw it up, Baltimore executed it. Disciplined rush lane.
The Rookie of the Year in the Eastern Division, Matt Goodwin, with a huge play late in this football game, with Baltimore clinging to a 2-point lead. Bob Cameron's third down punt. Lester Smith takes it back at the 15-yard line, and he dives forward for 3. That was a 32-yard kick by Bob Cameron, as Cal Murphy has some last-minute advice for linebacker Reggie Gibbons. And on the other side, Don Matthews has some advice for Tracy Ham as he goes out for this offensive series.
The most important thing about that punt fielding was just to make sure that you caught the football. Not worry about the return yardage, but just hold on to the ball. Now, the big horses up front for Baltimore. The horse with no name. Can they provide the running room for Mike Pringle and Tracy Ham?
Pringle gets the call. Pringle does some bouncing off a couple of tackles. The ball comes loose. Winnipeg claim they've got it, but apparently the play had been whistled dead. And Pringle picks up 7.
A very close call right there, but the ground cannot cause a fumble. Good surge up front by the big guys, creating that seam for Mike Pringle. And when called upon, they were able to get the needed yardage on first to give him second and short. You see him right here. That ball, oh, it did come loose prior to hitting the ground. Winnipeg might have had a complaint.
Second and 3, Pringle again, and he should have the first down. Well, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers were unhappy with the first quarter fumble by Keith Woodside that led to a touchdown. Cal Murphy didn't think it was a fumble. When he looks at the videotape of the Mike Pringle fumble, he might have some thoughts, but that one should have been ruled a loose ball.
I think he may be sending that one into the league office as an open complaint. Not that it will be answered, but he will have a legitimate complaint. But when you come into the game in inclement weather this time of the year, your running game is so important. Baltimore is proving right now if they can keep the ball on the ground and run out the clock, the running game was the telling factor.
And Pringle in this final minute is certainly going to get a lot of work as he is the ball carrier once again, and he picks up about 2. Baltimore looking to achieve something no other expansion team has ever done, play in a championship game.
Well, this was a game of history. The past 2 weeks, Don, you and I have been very fortunate enough to watch history in the making. We watched as Baltimore defeated Toronto in the first ever playoff game, competed in the CFL by an American team. The first time that an American team has ever played in a CFL conference championship game. Baltimore has done that, and they're 40 seconds away from their first Grey Cup appearance.
Second and 8. Ham using as much time as possible on the 20-second clock before calling for the snap. He gives it to Pringle again. He ran into one of his own men. 27 seconds is all the time remaining.
And Winnipeg will burn their only timeout right here to try to preserve some time on the clock.
But Winnipeg is going to have a long field to travel if they're going to even get close to the field goal range of Troy Westwood kicking into the wind, because Josh Miller with the wind at his back should be able to get away a 50 or 60-yard punt as he did earlier in the game in the first quarter when he was kicking with the wind.
Well, he had 2 punts in the first quarter with the wind at his back, and he averaged 58 yards on those 2 kicks. But also recall, Winnipeg has come very close twice in blocking Josh Miller kicks. So this is not a sure thing with him punting the ball.
Penalty flag as the kick will roll out of bounds, or no, it'll stay in the field of play. Alan Boyko is knocked out of bounds, bringing it back to the 37, but there is a penalty flag at the line of scrimmage. That was a 48-yard kick, 6 yards on the return.
But it's only 17 seconds left in the game, and we have an illegal procedure by Baltimore, and they're going to force them to re-kick it again. You have to take every opportunity that you can in trying to block the kick. And once again, Winnipeg will sell out coming after Miller. They're going to
procedure. Baltimore, only 6 men on the line. Decline. Down.
Well, with only 17 seconds remaining, Winnipeg declining a penalty to take the football at the 37-yard line, 1st and 10. Well, as Matt Dunnigan got something in his bag of tricks that could take the ball down to at least the field goal range of Troy Westwood. Jamie Holland is bounced out of bounds, incomplete. Carl Anthony was defending against him. 13 seconds the time remaining. Let's go to the sidelines. Here's Mark.
Don, I just talked to Troy Westwood and Bob Cameron. The consensus is the Bombers must drive to at least the Baltimore 30-yard line for Westwood to be within range of a field goal. They figure 37 to 40 yards tops is the range into this win.
And they only have one play left to do that realistically within the time frame, Mark.
Dunnigan throws for Holland, and Carl Anthony, who scored the only touchdown of the football game in the first quarter, intercepts to snuff out any remaining hopes of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And with 6 seconds remaining, Baltimore can prepare for a trip to Vancouver and the 1994 Grey Cup game.
And history has been made here. The CFL has been rewritten. We maybe see a changing of the guard in a long-standing history of the CFL. A U.S. team has come in flight of the Holy Grail, trying to take it back down south.
Now, Cal Murphy said prior to the start of the year that he thought Baltimore would be the team to beat in the Eastern Conference based on the coaching staff they had assembled and the players with CFL experience they had acquired. And one of those experienced players, Carl Anthony, recovered a fumble to score a touchdown and snuffs out any last hope of the Blue Bombers with an interception. 5 seconds remain on the clock. Baltimore will return home via a charter flight tonight and then head to Vancouver on Tuesday. And Tracy Ham has eliminated many of his critics with his performance this year. And he will get a chance to redeem himself for a 1990 Grey Cup loss to these same Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So Don Matthews, the 6th winningest coach in the history of the Canadian Football League, gets another opportunity to try and win a Grey Cup as a head coach as he leads his Baltimore CFLers to Vancouver in the Grey Cup game against either Calgary or British Columbia.
Well, you have to take your hat off for what Baltimore and Don Matthews has been able to accomplish this season. Let's go down to Mark with head coach Don Matthews.
All right, thank you, Don. We're at center field with Don Matthews. Don, your team is the first American team to go into a Grey Cup. Can you put this win into perspective for us?
Well, you know what? This is very, very special. This is a real first-class bunch of young men that we've got here. It was very difficult conditions, as everybody saw here, to play. I thought the Winnipeg crowd was great. They did exactly what they should have done for their home team, and our guys made a gallant game out of it, and then that big kick at the end, that was super.
It sure was. The adversity of the wind, the noise, the snowballs, you guys really had to put up with a lot here, didn't you?
Yeah, we did, and you know what, the thing, it's not adversity, it's part of football, playing in the Canadian Football League, and we really haven't had adversity. We've had a good football team. We've got better as we've progressed, you know, week in and week out. Our guys are just